Zoe Langham there in third for Wahoo Lacole. Beth Mckeever will have to settle for fourth. Wow, look at the power of Mckeever. She's the only rider to get anywhere near 12 watts a kilo, and she's continuing that effort, opening up a huge gap for the final sprint. Mckeever takes first there, Lizzie Brooke in second place, but somebody's going to go straight at the top. Brooke goes straight over the top.
Los Adahis is the first rider to open up.
She is indeed. Adahis with a big surge there. So Van Hurling absolutely flying around the corner here. Look at that, she's got an aero power up as well. Van Hurling looks like she's going to take this one, but the road starts to kick up. Zoe Langham coming fast on the inside. It looks like Langham is going to take this one. Zoe Langham in the last 25 metres of the course takes the win here in New York City.
After that round, this is how things stand in terms of the overall series points. Wahoo Lacole continue their dominant start to the season with a 1-2 for Zoe Langham and Eiley Gardner on the day and 4 riders inside the top 10. That meant a runaway victory in the round and another week taking the maximum 20 points to add to their series tally. That, as you can see, is now up to 60. Sarah's No Pins are in second with 6 points to make up. The Ionian Race Team are in turn 1 point further adrift in third. Hino Racing Team in fourth, and then locked together in 5th and 6th are Movistar and Beast Mode on 44 points apiece. So, 3 rounds done, 3 still to go. The perfect score so far for Wahoo Lacole, and that's made it even more impressive when you think that they're newly promoted into the Premier Division.
Yeah, and they've got this mix of experienced and some relatively inexperienced riders within the team. And as I said before, the pressure that must be on their shoulders, they're dealing with it so well. And I think that is what makes it so impressive. I think that the test will come tonight in our first team time trial of the season, whether they can continue that success, how are they going to deal with that, their tactic on the night, how many practice runs have they had out on course in Douce France.
Like you said, they have got a decent buffer after just 3 rounds, so even if it does go a little bit wrong tonight, it would have to go seriously wrong, wouldn't it, for them to slip down the order too much?
It would, and they'd have to have serious challenge from some of those teams, Saris No Pins or Ionian, to try and challenge them. Hino at the moment around 10 points adrift from the lead of Wahoo Lacole. However, Hino, have been one of the dominant teams in the team time trial. So perhaps could this be the night that we see them sort of come back to success? Well,
they'll certainly be hoping to close the gap a little bit, won't they? Right, next up, we're going to take a look at the experience of Canyon SRAM from last week's round. Their riders were all out in Mallorca on a training camp, and they did the Zwift ZRL all together, and the team was kind enough to film their Zwift Academy stars in action.
Oh, is that rice cake or in Oh, caramel.
My teammates Ella Harris and Maud Uneman will be racing Zwift Race, a series in New York, which is super fun. We get to race together and suffer together at least, so it's nice.
Tonight we've got the ZRL race. This is the 3rd round, and it's on the New York Park perimeter course. So I'll actually be in the start pen, and then I'll be able to follow them and as if I'm riding alongside them, so I'll see the same information basically.
This is round 3 of the Zwift Racing League. We're in New York City. The Canyon SRAM team, they're all here. Neve Bradbury, Ella Harris and Mulder Alderman, and they really are the stars of the future. Ella Harris already well decorated, and Neve looking pretty composed there.
Yeah, it's a very difficult part going up to.
The speed ramp up, we can see the Flamme it's just in the sights of these riders.
It goes round to the left and then it kicks up. You need to go quite long on this one.
We're looking at Neve Bradbury. She moves to the front. Look how composed the former Zwift Academy winner is there, riding with her teammates, but she's the only representative of Canyon SRAM in this lead group.
first in the bunch. I ended up 10th, so that's okay. Yeah. That's pretty good. That's okay.
Canyon SRAM in action there last week, and how cool is their new kit? Incidentally, you've been voting over on the GCN app on all of the 2022 World Tour team kits, and tomorrow on the GCN show, we'll be ranking them from worst all the way to the best. See how Canyon SRAM fares there. Right, we'll move on now and take a look at the course that they're going to be tackling in team formation in just a few minutes' time. It's the Douce France route. A short lead-in is preceded by one big lap, giving a total distance of 24.15 kilometres, which they're likely to complete in half an hour or less. It is flat-ish, but there are 133 metres of climbing over that distance. A couple of smaller climbs come very close to the start, and then a longer one of 420 metres at around about the midway point. And this could be very interesting tactically. Reason being, you can't afford to drop too many riders, but at the same time, this also marks a bonus section of the route. The fastest individual rider here will get 10 bonus seconds for their team. Second fastest rider gets their team 5 seconds, and the third fastest 3 seconds. The second half of the route is almost entirely flat, and there are 2 intermediate time checks along that route, so we can see exactly how the teams are stacking up against each other. And it will be the third rider across the line for each team that will give that team their time for the day. We'll get the initial results in live commentary, but afterwards, once those bonus seconds have been taken off, we'll get the final results for today's round 4. That's going to make things very intriguing indeed, Hannah, isn't it? How do you think they're going to play it in terms of going for those bonus seconds at the midway point up that climb? It's
going to be tasty, isn't it? And it's going to be a little bit spicy, I think, between the teams and who's going for it and what the different tactics are. I mean, this is the first time we've ever seen this happen in a team time trial. Some teams can afford to sacrifice one rider, maybe 2, but that's a huge, huge risk if they do that. But you could sacrifice one rider. It's only 420 metres, that segment. So, you know, it's a world of pain that you can put yourself in. If you're mighty strong, potentially you could get back on the descent. And if not, then you just let your 4 other teammates continue and do the remainder of the team time trial. However, it's a really interesting affair of what's going to happen, how they're going to manage that, how they've been perhaps training for it in their recons. Have they been putting the different riders to the test? Because it's only an average gradient of around 2%, so it's hard enough. It's certainly a climb. It can certainly do some damage and put you in the red. But you know, whether those riders can get back on afterwards or whether they'll just be sacrificed. Like you said, only 420 metres, but in my experience, that's plenty enough distance to go into the red. Not an option for Canyon SRAM, because once again, they're starting with 3 riders today, so they need all 3 of them to get towards the finish. As you just pointed out, there is the potential of doing like a 2-up lead out for one rider to get those 10 bonus seconds, but there's a big risk involved in that, isn't it? If you have any kind of mechanical problem or any other problem where you're not able to keep up with your team. Yeah, and if one of the other riders suffers, you know, going into the red later on into the race, you just don't have that option to lose a rider. You want to make sure that you've got to the finish totally empty, but having made the best of the whole course. There's some mightily strong time trialists out in the ZRL Premier Division across some of the teams. It'll be really interesting to see how they perform and how they do in such a different, varied version of a team time trial. Well, I really like this variation in this edition of the bonus section because, you know, normally in a team time trial out on the road and also on Zwift, the aim when you go up a climb is to not go too hard for the weakest rider, or maybe the second weakest rider. You can afford to drop one. There's a real debate potentially within the teams about how they go about that there, because they don't want to put too many riders into red up that climb, because then it can all fall apart very quickly indeed in the last part of the race. And perhaps putting so much emphasis on that bonus segment where there is 10 bonus seconds up for grabs, 5 for the second fastest and 3 for the third fastest, that actually you could hamper the whole of the remainder of your team time trial and end up losing so much more time than you gain by collecting the 10 bonus seconds. So I think, you know, perhaps if teams think too much about it, it could hamper them. If they don't, then, you know, it could be the difference between winning and losing as well. Yeah, not much point in getting 10 bonus seconds, is there, if you then lose 3 minutes by the time you get to the finish line. Also of note is that there's only 1 set of bonus seconds per team. So if the same team, for example, has the fastest 2 riders, they will only get the 10 seconds, and then the next fastest
individual rider will pick up the 5 bonus seconds for their team. Right, let's take a closer look at some of the key lineups for the teams in the women's race tonight, starting with series leaders Wahoo Lecole. They've got Helen O'Neill, Eilidh Gardner, Lizzie Brooke, Zoe Langham and Lindsay Cassie for tonight. Hannah, how do you rate their chances?
Yeah, they've got a really strong, well-depth team. We have Wahoo Lecole, Helen O'Neill, Lindsay Cassie sort of been brought in. Semench isn't riding tonight. But they've got some really strong riders. Eilidh Gardner is a terrific climber, really strong time trialist. Likewise with Lizzie Brooke and Zoe Langham. Well, the form that she's in, I think she can do anything at the moment. It's tremendous.
Feels that way, doesn't it? Right, moving on to the Hino team. These are their 5 riders for this evening. We've got Louise Huback, Cecilia Hansen, Vicky Whitelaw, Alice Lethbridge, and finally Melanie Maurer of Switzerland. Your thoughts?
Well, they have been the dominant team across the majority of all team time trials in all editions of the ZRL Premier Division. They haven't had quite the success that we've seen them have in previous seasons during this season. However, tonight could be the night that they turn that around, closing that gap to Wahoo Lecole in the team standings perhaps, or even just taking a team victory on the night. But they are certainly one of the most experienced teams in the team time trial. Definitely important for them tonight, isn't it? That's for sure. Let's move on then to the winners of the TTT in the last season of the ZRL, and that is Canyon Esports. They've got Mary Wilkinson, Stephanie Sidlick, Kirsten Poole, Kristin Falk, and finally Cecily Lejeune of France. Can they repeat from the last series? I think if you've got that confidence from the previous season, then it's quite doable if you're on that upward trajectory, perhaps. However, you've got to try and repeat that success and different courses too. It's a much flatter, and I think the makeup of their team is very much suited to a bit more elevation, but at the end of the day, get that formation right. They've got a superb sports director in the virtual team car with Reese Howell. It could all go right on the night. It's just making sure that you get to the finish line with that fastest time. And Hannah has actually spoken to Reese Howell in the last couple of days. We'll be hearing from him before the men's race, which comes up later on this evening, or this afternoon or this morning, depending on where you are in the world. For now, though, it's not long until the first team sets off in the team time trial. Hannah's going to make her way up to the commentary box, and so I am now going to hand you over to Matt Stevens.
Thank you very much indeed, Dan. There is the map of today's course, the only team time trial of this particular season. We're in round 4, and there we have it. We are in France, a 24.15 kilometre team time trial with 133 metres of elevation. That's not too much. That primarily comes out to around 15 kilometre walk. But there is a little bit of a twist, as was discussed on the sofa. There is a cheeky time bonus awarding the teams 10, 5, or the opportunity to get 10, 5 and 3 seconds by basically identifying somebody to rep up that climb as fast as possible. So the fastest rider will get those points. But as Dan said, there is a potential cost to that. There are 14 teams on the grid today, all going off at 1-minute intervals. Rocacorba Collective, the newly promoted team to the Premier League, are the first off the grid. Then we have Canyon SRAM, who are handicapped ever so slightly because they only have 3 riders, but 3 riders of real class as we go. Then ATB and the rest. Let's head straight into the action. Hannah will be joining me very, very shortly. I believe she's setting a new Strava record, improving every single week. But here we go. This is the Rocacorba Collective, and there again, it was lovely to see, is the rainbow bands of Ashley Moorman-Passio, who will be defending her World Esports title in just 3 or 4 weeks' time in New York. But at the moment, the team are going to be relying on her strength, her knowledge of how to ride a team time trial on Zwift, and just her ability to ride on Zwift exceptionally well. So Moorman-Passio leading this group through at the moment. So important that you ride to the speed of ideally one of the weakest riders. It is the 3rd rider, as Dan said earlier, that will cross the line. That's when the clock will stop. But Rocacorba Collective starting with a full complement of 5, and as you can see, That's Tennille Otto, Ashley Mormon-Passio in the Rainbow Bands, Charlie Berry, Catherine Collin, a former Zwift Academy finalist, and rounding out the 5 riders from the Rocker Corbo Collective, Rianne Denton. There's a little bit of a run through before they join in the circuit, 780 metre run through, then they actually commence a loop, which many of you will be familiar with. And this is the second team off, so we're pretty much straight into the action. This is Canyon Schramm, Neve Bradbury, Ella Harris and Maud Oderman. The new winner there in second position of the Zwift Academy. All of these riders Zwift Academy winners, and we are getting a good look at the virtual version of their kit. I can just see on another little screen, we've got Hannah Walker back. She looks quite fresh. I don't know if she's broken her own Strava record, but Hannah, great to have you alongside me in a booth. Always fascinating to see how these teams deal with a team time trial, especially with this added little bit of spice of those bonus seconds on offer.
Thanks very much, Matt. It really is spicy, isn't it, with the added bonus seconds. It's a really tasty element that's been, added into this team time trial, and I think it certainly gives teams something to think about in terms of what tactic will they deploy, how will they race this, are they going to be sacrificing a rider as we just see the next team leaving their start pen, Matt.
Yeah, this is ATP Racing. They currently sit 12th. The teams are going off in reverse order of the league standings. So the last team off, unsurprisingly, team number 1 in the rankings, that will be Wahoo Lecole. But we are looking at ATP Racing. Venom, Angela Roberts, Cassie Nelson, Megan Kelly, Jennifer Santoyo and Kinsey Riemann, all from the United States of America. And so far, so good. Looking at Kelly just dropping off the wheel there. But the key here, Hannah, as we know, in team time trialing is to stay as close together, and hopefully a little bit later we might get that heat map on the screen, because it's all about staying as close to the rider in front, not surging, keeping a very high pace, but importantly, especially on a course that's as flat as this, keep that speed high but smooth and even. That's the kind of the holy grail of team time trialing, isn't it?
It certainly is. You certainly don't want to be doing, giving your teammates a really hard time and kicking through and starting to open up those gaps and put down a lot of power when a rider has only just sort of done their turn, swung off, and they're wanting to try and get onto the back of the line. As we see the next team going off, here is 2 riders from the Kirchmine team. This is Lisa Muller and Stina Mick. At the moment, it looks like they've gone quite hard out of the gate. They just have to ease off ever so slightly to wait for their teammates. That's Nerman, Borschein and Kubilis.
It can be, as I think I've mentioned it before, I don't like blowing my own trumpet too much, but I have actually ridden for the Zwift Rockets 1 team time trial on Zwift, and I can tell you what, it is a very, very challenging discipline. And we know that in the regular e-racing, we see teams constantly communicating, but more than ever, Hannah, the team time trial, they'll be constantly speaking to each other as best they can, won't they? Augmented, of course, by whoever's going to be the team manager or another rider that might be used to bring everybody together.
It's really interesting to see how the different teams utilise their other riders who are perhaps sitting out tonight's race for the team time trial, whether they'll be on the Discord channel, on the communication methods, giving their insight, giving them some instruction, as well as their virtual sports director in the virtual team car, Matt.
Indeed, we're looking at the 4 riders there from Team Swedish Zwifters. Emring, Hermansson, Larsen, Vardstrom and Bolin. Although we only have 4 riders on our screen, they might have lost 1 rider early on, but this is the team that were 5th off today. They lie 10th in the league, and so far in these very, very early stages, looking very tight, and that's the sort of formation, if you're looking at the screen, you want to see these riders essentially in one long line or a blob, the riders taking turns on the front, and the riders just sat behind in that slipstream, just saving their effort, and then Svartstrom just dropping to the back of this group. It really is an exercise in nuance, as well as an exercise in pain, because the team time trial, as you well know, Hannah, it's an exceptionally brutal discipline, but it's all about nuance as well, feathering the power very, very deftly as we look at Toyota Cryo RDT. Tammy Miller, Charlotte Colclough, Harriet Gilson, Linda Klein and Rebecca Richardson. And it does take normally a couple of minutes for these teams to really settle in and then start bowling along, because we do often see teams split in the early stages, don't we?
Yeah, all it takes is for one rider to put down a lot more power in that starting block. It starts to open up a few gaps between the team before they really settle into that rhythm. And I think when you look at this course, it's actually quite a hard start. It's the part where there is some undulation. You have the twists and turns. It's incredibly difficult to keep it into one long line as a formation, as a team. Whether they just commit one rider for this early part, for the first couple of kilometers, to do the bulk load of the work on the front and really put down that power to make sure that they get through the undulation and the twists and turns safely, and then they can start to really make those team time trial changes that we see normally, Matt.
Yep, we're looking at Virginia's Blue Ridge 2024 to give the team their new name. Kristen Kulczynski just sat at the back there. She'll be representing the United States in the forthcoming Esports World Championships. There are the stats at the bottom of your screen. Differentiating power at the moment, but as we said before, and as Hannah has described, it does take a few moments for these teams just to settle into that rhythm, but it's crucial that they get into that rhythm, into that formation as early as possible, because the last thing you want is to be riding on your own in the wind and not getting the benefit of drag, because essentially you're riding on your own if you're not on the wheel of another. So it's all about trying to get in that formation as quickly as possible. But this is a team that are exceptionally well drilled. Another team who we know are well drilled and very, very good at this particular discipline, Hannah, is Canyon Esports. As we said, the winner of the TT round in last season.
And they've had that experience over the last few years in team time trialling across the ZRL Premier Division. They've got Reese Howell as their sports director, who has had so much experience over the years. First started the Canyon Esports team back in 2019. So they've had so many different team time trials to really pick apart and see where they can improve, where they're the strongest, their formation as well on the road. They've done a lot of testing in terms of what's the fastest formation in a team time trial. Is it to be in one long line? Is it to be in a blob formation? So they're putting in so much work into the team time trial because they know it's an integral part of the ZRL Premier Division, Matt.
Indeed, and we know that Beast Mode Powerball Rose are a team that perform well in the team time trial. Haag has just drifted off the front there. This all-German squad, Lisa Krom, Gabriela Schaumann, Elisa Haag, and Merlis Bruni and Maria Marb. And the first team off earlier on, Rocco Corba Collective, they're going to be going through the split in about 1 kilometre time. We have 2 splits on the course. The first one comes at the Ballon Sprint, that comes at 7 kilometres. We then have the bonus arch, which we'll talk about later, at the Aqueduct. That comes at 10.9. And split number 2 on today's course comes at the Pavé Sprint at 13.18k. But look at this formation early on. That looks pretty tight. That's the kind of team formation that we want to see, isn't it?
You can just see that they've got getting everything right here. Beast Mode Powered by Rose, the all-German team, as Sherman does a long turn on the front, and they're just taking these twists and turns and the undulations so nicely, giving their other teammates a long time and period of recovery.
Yeah, that's what you want. You want that opportunity to rest and recover after you've done your turn on the front. And if you do get it right, it just makes for a very, very effective fighting force. Delana there of Movistar on the front, and a former British time trial champion, Hayley Simmons, used to TTing on her own. This time her power is going to be needed very well. That's just Rocco Corba going through the arch there. That's split number 1 for the Rocco Corba Collective. Will get their time as soon as possible. I think the time they did was actually 9 minutes and 53 seconds. We'll get a leaderboard on as soon as more teams pass through. But great to see Movistar out on course. They lie in 5th position so far in the league. But they are really going to be leaning on, I think, Hayley Simmons, who is a remarkably powerful rider, and is one of the finest riders at this particular discipline.
She's exceptional. She's been a British champion in the time trial during her career, and this is really her bread and butter, the time trial. Anything to do with timed events, anything to do where the detail in a time trial comes into play, and the team time trial, she's really at home, and I think she'll really thrive in this discipline tonight with Movistar E-Team.
Definitely. We're looking at Louise Huback, who's just drifted off the front, or maybe surged off the front would be a better word here for Hino. The team that are in 4th position overall. They certainly won't be particularly happy with that, but we know how experienced this team is. As you talked about, Hannah, on the sofa with Dan, they are so well drilled, they're vastly experienced, but they find themselves in unfamiliar territory this point in the season. So they'll be, regardless of their overall aspirations, they're going to want to prove a bit of a point. They are not out of things. As we look at this, we look at Canyon SRAM now. Canyon SRAM just coming through. Remember, only 3 riders for Canyon SRAM, but 3 real megastars. Stars of the future, should I get. And now we've got Ionian out on the course. They're sitting in 3rd place overall. And they've really, really impressed me so far this season, Hannah.
The way that they've ridden this season, I mean, it's just been exceptional, hasn't it? Across the board, all of the riders have played an integral part into the success and where they are. And I think they've made such great advantages over this season. It's been leaps and bounds, hasn't it? Especially with Daniela Strate, Verhaeren, Mona-Lee Keller, Los Aragist. They've just really worked well together. It's something that's clicked almost. And it's all just gone right for Ionian.
Well, that was ATP just going through the first time split. But interesting, just looking at the Ionian race team here, and I might stand corrected, but we're just looking at Daniela Estrate, Mona-Lee Keller and Louis Adderhaste. They've only got 3 riders. That we know how strong this team are, but they have to finish with 3 riders. So whoever's riding or struggling in this out of this group, although you'd imagine that they are pretty well matched, that means they've got no slack at all. So this is going to be very, very hard. And remember, they're defending 3rd place overall. So unfortunately, they can only field 3 riders. But we'll talk a little bit about that later on as we look at Saris. What a season Saris No Pins are having in that freshly minted kit. 2nd at 24 points. Here's Kirkmare coming through for the intermediate split. We'll get that time as soon as we can. The Kirkmare team, their time, we'll get that in a moment. They recorded a 9:57, which leaves them in 2nd place at the moment. As we look at No Pins. No Pins have really, I mean, tremendous riding by this team this season.
Liz Van Hurling, the rider who's just swinging to the back there, you know, taking that individual victory in race 1 of the ZRL Premier Division was something so special. And with the experience of Catherine Curie within the team, Courtney Nelson has, you know, sort of really impressed. And I think across the board, they've come on leaps and bounds.
Yeah, they certainly have. But what can you say about this team? I think Dan hit the nail on the head. We described this team as much as we can. The Swedish just going through. We'll get the time for the Swedish team in a moment. Let's talk a little bit about the most dominant team. They've got a 100% record. It's incredible what they've done. Coming from, they've almost rewritten the rule book with their dominance and have taken so many people by surprise. But it's been great fun to see it, isn't it? It's really shaken up the women's league, isn't it?
It certainly has. I mean, it's been tremendous to watch and to see the team, the makeup of the team, and the success that they've had. As I mentioned on the sofa with Dan, they've had some riders who are vastly experienced within the team, with Lizzie Brooke and Eiley Gardner, who've been racing in esports for such a long time on Zwift. And then you add, you know, some other riders to the roster who, you know, perhaps are relatively new, but have just adapted to it so well. I mean, the way in which Zoe Langham has had such success. You know, she sprung onto the scene when she won the UCI Continental Qualifiers for Europe, and since then, it's just been an upward trajectory for her and the rest of the team. It's so impressive.
It certainly has. It's been amazing to get to know these riders as well. But that was Toyota Cryo just a few moments ago going through the arcs. It was a good time by them, 9:51, putting them in 2nd place. The leading team so far, Team Swedish Zwifters, with a 9:49. But of course, several teams still to pass through that first intermediate split, which comes at 7Ks. But we are getting a good look. This is that initial meandering section of this course, where the road constantly moves from left to right. Come in the other direction, you hit it with a lot of speed and actually moving pretty quickly here. This can be quite discombobulating in game, can't it? I've ridden on this course many times, but travelling at speed through this section really does throw you a little bit, doesn't it?
And also to manage your power output as a rider, to make sure that you're not putting out too much, that you're starting to disconnect the team, open up those gaps. It's really, as you say, discombobulating. It's a really difficult segment of the course.
Back again to the team that lead the rankings. They are very, very impressive. They've entertained us, but they're looking really good here. As we said before, and we will keep on pressing this point home, the team time trial discipline is about riding as closely as you can together, using your strengths, using the riders that can just generate the little bit more power for longer periods of time on the front, keeping that speed very, very smooth, constantly communicating. But it won't be long before the first team passes through the bonus arch at the aqueduct. That comes at 10.9 k's. We're very, very close to that particular section. It's 420 meters long. But Hannah, what would you do if you're a team manager? Okay, I'm going to put you on the spot here because there is a bit of a reward. If you get it wrong, it could really break the rhythm of the squad, couldn't it?
It's if you, as you say, if you do get it wrong and you end up actually, it puts you at a disadvantage for the last part of the course. The bonus arch comes at 10.9 kilometers into the race, so you've still got just roughly 13 kilometers left of the race that you still have to do. If I was a sports director, potentially I would look to sacrificing one rider to go for those 10 seconds and make sure that it's one of those riders who can really maximize across that segment, because as I mentioned before on the sofa to Dan, it's only around 420 meters long at roughly around 2% average gradient, and you're just getting a little look at the arch here, the aqueduct for one of the teams just going across.
This is Canyon SRAM, I think. Yep, Canyon SRAM. It's only, again, sadly, 3 riders there just going through. They clearly aren't setting the world light up here because they cannot afford to catapult somebody up the road to blow, because they just have to wait. Rocacorba are the fastest team at the moment on that climb. Of course, they're only the first team to pass through with a 39.87. That's the benchmark, but we don't know whether Rocacorba actually targeted it specifically or are just trying to ride collectively as a unit. Because as we look again at the team leading Wahoo Lacole, I think some teams will be going for it, and I think other teams might have looked at it and maybe even practiced it, because we know how many teams spend a lot of time in these courses doing recons. Because some teams might have worked out that it's just not a good idea to go for. Maybe there's too much to lose rather than to gain.
It certainly could be the way, Matt. And as it's never happened before in the ZRL Premier Division that we've had this type of team time trial with the bonus seconds, it's hard to predict. And I think a lot of teams will be thinking about what are other teams doing. It's not something that you might normally do, kind of think about other teams' tactics and really think into it. You want to try and play to your strengths and play your own race. But on something like this, you know, it's a lot to lose if you get it wrong, and it can certainly see the standings change if a team does get it wrong in terms of the overall team points classification.
Well, here's Kirkmare. They definitely have sent somebody up. That is the first illustration of a team trying to go for that bonus, because they sent a rider way ahead. There's the rest of the squad. So one rider has clearly gone up the road in an effort to try and take that fastest time, and with it the 10 bonus seconds. And as Dan alluded to, or as Dan explicitly said, should I say, there's only one rider from each team that can actually, one rider per team, should I say, that can take the time bonus, even if the second place rider in that team goes faster than everybody else. So 10 seconds for the fastest rider from the team, 5 and 3. So it is a bit of a gamble if you go for it, because there's only 3 teams that could actually get that one. We're looking at Team Swedish Swifters here. They are the team that are currently fastest on the board at the intermediate split. So they are riding a very, very strong team time trial here in France. Their time was a 9:49. 39 seconds is the time to beat on this particular climb, although I think the time of Rocacorba will have been beaten by Beast Mode powered by Rose. But it doesn't look to me here, Hannah, that they might be just setting a hard tempo, but they certainly haven't catapulted anybody up the road. It seems to me that Team Swedish Swifters are taking this conservatively and not being tempted by the bait of the 10 seconds.
They're riding that very, very tactically in terms of keeping that together. They're not risking, by the looks of things, to send a rider up the road. You even just saw then, it was looked like Larson, or Hermansen's, apologies, who was just struggling off the back. She clawed her way back on as we see the next team, Matt, coming up to the aqueduct. Yeah,
this is a Toyota. And they've certainly looked like they've used that little, you and Dan were talking about, will teams use one rider to lead another rider out, and Toyota have certainly done that. These 2 riders have split away. It's Tammy Miller, I think, who crossed the line first for that team. So Toyota are a team that definitely did try and target that intermediate bonus. And just to step away briefly and look at the whole ZRL, we heard riders talking last week, didn't we, about the way they really enjoy the way the rule book's been ripped up. We've got these different time bonuses, different distribution of points, and the fact that we are disrupting the traditional team time trial by adding bonuses will really make teams think differently. And that's what I love about this latest iteration of the ZRL. It really makes teams think. It also makes teams gamble and take risks, which is exciting.
It is exciting for the fans who watch as well, because you're getting to see something you're not quite sure what's going to happen. Is a team going to get it completely wrong? Is it going to play right into their hands? As you see going over the Aqueduct QOM, there is a slight descent. So if a rider does catapult themselves off the front, and they do have a couple of seconds to the rest of their teammates, they do have that little slight descent to get a little bit of recovery and potentially still get back on. So there's so many different aspects to this team time trial, and I certainly love the way that the rulebook has been ripped up and rewritten, and it's so disciplined, Matt.
It certainly is. Well, we're focusing on the team that are leading the classification so far. And they've still got 5 riders. It's important to keep the riders for as long as you can. They are going through the first intermediate split. You can just see it around the corner. There is the banner. So once they cross the line here, they would have covered around 7 kilometers, and they've got this real nice blob formation, looking very, very smooth. Let's have a look at the time that Wahoo Lacol have posted, and they are fastest. They are the fastest team on course. Early days yet, only 9:36. We think the rough timings will be about 32 minutes, but so far they have lit up this leaderboard with a 9:36. Second place at the moment, about 12 seconds back, Saris Nopins with a 9:44. So Wahoo Lacol continue in these early stages to dominate, and look at how well drilled this squad is. Very, very good. All of the riders who aren't on the front are benefiting from the draft of the others. This is almost perfect riding so far from the team that lead the ZRL. So O'Neill now moves to the front. There is confirmation. That's the Ballon sprint so far. So that is a confirmation of split number 1. Wahoo Lacol with a 9:36. Rocca Corba with a 9:23. And then Saris Nopins with a 9:44. So good riding here by Lacol. Lots of ride-ons being dropped as well. And just because this isn't a scratch race or a points race doesn't mean you can't get involved. It's a completely different discipline, but I can tell you these riders are going to be hurting, but in a slightly different way. So please do get involved in the comments underneath the GCN Racing YouTube channel, and please do fire up your Zwift companion apps and give these riders a ride on, because Hannah, this is one of the toughest disciplines. It was a discipline that used to make me the most nervous. I was more nervous at the team time trial than doing an actual race, but we'll talk about that in a moment. Less about me, more about Beth Mckeever, because she is flying up this climb.
Well, you just saw this is a definite effort to try and go for those bonus seconds. 420 meters in length with an average gradient of 2%. This is right up Beth Mckeever's street in terms of her abilities and attributes as a rider, and she's trying to take those maximum 10 points at the Aqueduct Queen of the Mountain at the moment, and see the gap that she's opened up to her teammates. They're almost out of sight at the moment, Matt.
Wow, she is absolutely lit the afterburners there. I'm surprised she kept the 2 wheels on the floor and catapulted herself into the river, to be perfectly honest with you. Such was the power there. Look at that, 29.07. They are the fastest team. So the bonus seconds, if they're the they're not the last team, they're the fastest team at the moment, should I say. But Beth Mckeever using her devastating turn of speed to good effect. And as you said, because she's opened up a little bit of a lead, so much of a lead, she will have an opportunity on this slightly downhill section, Hannah, to recover a bit, as long as she picks up the momentum just as the team joins her, because she doesn't want to get spat out the back.
this is where that communication will come into its very own, and the sports director has to be really on it to let Beth Mckeever know that the team are coming. So you need to start to inject a little bit more power, a little bit more pace to make sure that you get back into the formation of the team time trial. And I think, you know, perfectly executed the way we saw that on screen there from Movistar E-Team and Beth Mckeever.
Well, Beth Mckeever still out in front here. It just shows, I mean, that we almost should have stopped the clock. She, I would imagine, opened up about 5 or 6 second lead, but that is the fastest team so far. It certainly hasn't been superseded by anybody else. Hino, we saw them go across the line a few moments ago. They kept that same type formation, indicating they hadn't particularly gone for the sprint itself, for those bonuses. But this is the Ionian race team. Absolutely flying this season. Remember, they sit in 3rd position in the ZRL. We're just coming towards that sprint point now. Will they launch somebody up the road? Great to see the pockets bulging of these riders from the ride-ons that you in the community have given them. Will Alahace use that real turn of speed, or will Daniela Estrate also go for it? But it looks to me, unless they're going to do a very, very late surge, that they're keeping a lid on things here, Han. This is interesting. It's fascinating to see the different tactics that the teams are employing. Perhaps Ionian thinking it's too risky to put somebody into red at this stage of the race.
It certainly is very risky, and by the looks of things, they've already lost one of their riders, only 3 riders. So if they break things up here for Ionian, you know, it's no coming back. There'll be no option for them to recover, and they need to sort of limit their losses, make sure they get to the finish line with all 3 riders intact, with no problems. And I think it could do them sort of a detrimental effect if they do sacrifice one of the riders.
Well, this is Saris No-Pins are absolutely flying on this course. They were the second from last team off because they're second overall. And do you know what? They are not that far behind Ionian. So this is a very, very good ride. Remember, this split here isn't a time check. It isn't a split. It's just for the bonus points. Courtney Nelson has just gone off the front. Van Hurling just behind. So it looks like Nelson did put in a little bit of a surge to try and snaffle the bonus seconds there. Catherine Curie just at the back. Meanwhile, Wahoo Lacole aren't too far behind. Remember, they set the fastest time at the first intermediate split. Will Wahoo Lacole stick in that familiar formation we've seen, that very, very disciplined, tight formation, or will they fire somebody off the front? Zoe Langham just off the back there. That was a little bit uncharacteristic, or is she going to catapult herself straight over the top? No, Langham's going for it. She was clearly holding back there and has catapulted herself through the group, getting the draft of the group to try and go for the split here. Zoe Langham, the finish is in sight, so clearly we've seen the turn of speed that she possesses. And what will the net result be? Will Wahoo Lacole, being the last team on the course, will get the time through very, very shortly? Will they have beaten the time that Beth Mckeever set of Movistar? So all the teams are now through that bonus point on the course. And it doesn't look, unless the situation changes, that Movistar have been beaten. So we're just waiting on the data for that one. So hold your horses, but it's very tense. But clearly Zoe Langham was clearly going for that one, Hannah.
She was, and played that in a very, very different manner to the way that Movistar E-Team played it. Zoe Langham, she came from behind, she left a few bike links, she used that draft to her teammates. As long as the timer starts, when she crosses that red dotted line to indicate that that's when the timer of the segment starts, she was able to use her teammates' draft. She went straight through them and almost used it as a little bit of a carrot as well, something to chase when you can see your teammates in front of you, when she just powered through. Exceptional ride there from Zoe Langham. We'll get the data very, very shortly, but it's great to see the different teams using different tactics here, Matt.
Indeed. Well, that was a Rocker Corba collective rolling through there. I can confirm they have passed through split number 2. And split number 2 is the Pave sprint. That came at 13.8 Ks. They're sitting in 4th. But the fastest team so far, after setting the 3rd fastest time at split number 1, they now lead at split number 2. 12 teams have passed through. Hino Racing, with 18 minutes dead, Hannah, are the team that are leading at split number 2. So Hino Racing really picking up that speed, and that negative split early on shows how well the pacing strategy for Hino so far looks very, very good indeed. Well, there we go. The Aqueduct has been won by Movistar 29.07, courtesy of Beth Mckeever. Wahoo Lacole using Zoe Langham in third there with 30.4. Canyon Esports in third, should I say, with third. So they are the three teams that will get the time bonuses. So Movistar will take 10 seconds off their time at the end. Wahoo will lose 5, and then Canyon will lose 3 as we look at Wahoo Lacole just going through the sprint. Let's have a look at the accumulated. Wahoo Lacole have gone through 17:45. They are the fastest team by 15 seconds. So Wahoo Lacole lead with a 17:45. Second place, Hino Racing Team with 18 seconds. And by the looks of things, Wahoo Lacole still have their full complement of riders.
Well, that just shows, despite even going for that intermediate, the bonus segments, they're still out on top. But as you were just mentioning and alluding to there, Matt, that Hino Racing Team having that negative split, they went through the first intermediate in third fastest with a 9:44. They go through, they are second fastest at the second intermediate checkpoint, and perhaps starting to show their experience. That really is starting to show in the team time trial. What have they got left for the remaining part of this course? At the moment, 15 seconds in arrears. They have to make up 15 seconds before they get to that finish line. And of course, excluding the bonus seconds that Wahoo have won so far.
Well, this is Rocco Corba coming into the final kilometre, and unsurprisingly, it's Ashley Moorman-Passio, the first ever esports world champion, who's on the front. She is such a popular figure and is wearing those bands with pride. She'll be defending them soon in a few weeks' time in New York. But look at the power on at the front there. Moorman-Passio driving home this team. Remember, Rocco Corba Collective newly promoted to this league. Daniel Otto, Ashley Moorman-Passio, Charlie Berry, Catherine Collin and Rhian Denton. That's the full complement. Berry and Collin still there, but Moorman-Passio still on the front. This is one heck of a ride, just showing the strength of Moorman-Passio here, Hannah.
Yeah, she's an incredibly strong rider. She's been spending a lot of time this week on Zwift, having raced her first round of the ZRL Premier Division last week, really starting to build towards the back end of the ZRL Premier Division, but just showing her strength at the moment, dragging these riders, just giving them as much rest and recovery and slipstream as possible, and they want to try and end and finish this team time trial strongly.
You certainly do. It's Berry now on the front, moving past Passio. The finish comes in to sight just around this corner. This is going to be a solid performance here by the new squad. Moorman-Passio just drifting through to the front. The third counter is going to be Catherine Collin. I think they crossed the line. What is their time going to be as we look at ATP Racing? So a solid performance there by the Rocco Corba Collective. I think they've come home in just over 33 minutes, but Canyon now we're looking at, remember they only started, Canyon SRAM only started, remember, with 3 riders, so they've had a very, very challenging ride. Maud Oderman, Ella Harris and Neve Bradbury, as I said before, 3 stars of the future, and it does look as if they're going to be caught by the team behind them, Hannah.
Yeah, well, it's kind of almost not surprising, having only had 3 riders for the whole of their race. When you look at ATP Racing Venom, that they've got that full complement of riders. They have the extra 2 riders to contribute. It also means that the riders have more recovery time. But Canyon SRAM, with the resources that they've got, the riders that they've got, they are such an up-and-coming bunch of talent within this small but mighty trio of riders. Ella Harris, Neve Bradbury and Maud Oderman. It is fantastic to see, and they're certainly holding their own, Matt.
Well, they'll certainly know that the ATP are breathing down their necks, and that'll drive them on, spur them on even further, see if they can just hold this team off, because ATP have gone under the Flamme Rouge as well. This beautifully rendered French countryside looks dazzling today, as is the pace of ATP Racing underneath the bridge. And in the crosshairs of this team are the 3 women Canyon SRAM team just in front. We've got about 500 meters to go. ATP are using the pink Canyon SRAM team as a virtual carrot in front of them. Lots of ride-ons flying down. Now remember, the finish line comes only with about 50 meters to go around that final right-hander. The time of the only team to have finished so far, Roca Corba Collective. I can get my words out, there's so much excitement going on. 34-22, the bar has been set high by that squad, but ATP Racing look as if they might just overhaul Canyon SRAM almost within sight of the finish. We might get these two teams converging across the line. Well, the finish is coming in about 200 or 300 meters time. This is where the road bears to the right. Canyon SRAM, I think, are just going to hold on. Great riding by Ella Harris, Maud Oderman and Neve Bradbury. The New Zealander, the Dutch woman and the Australian cross the line just ahead of ATP Racing. And just behind is ATP Racing, just behind them. So 36.51 for Canyon SRAM and a 36.54 for ATP. So this is Kirkmere, not too far behind either, Hannah.
Well, now the teams start to come in thick and fast as Kirkmire, they're keeping that strong formation. They were one of the teams that we saw have one of the first teams to see one of the riders go off the front on the Aqueduct Queen of the Mountain. But at the moment, they're riding strongly. They have a slight carrot in the terms of one of the riders who's been distanced from their team. But at the moment, they bear to the right-hand side. They're going to cross the line, almost a blanket finish to stop the clock with the three riders here for Kirkmire, the team in yellow. You take a look at the time that they set on tonight. Well, they go fastest, well, at the moment, so it's 33.46. I apologise. At the moment, by the looks of things, and not far behind, Matt. Team Swedish Swifters still with the four riders.
Yep, team Swedish Swifters looking pretty good. That's what you want to see coming into the final, is them staying together. Embering on the front. Larson now moves through. Team Swedish Swifters having a solid season so far. Hermansson just on the back there. I can tell you what, this last kilometre, so painful as they move through. They've just got to keep it tight, try and squeeze every single bit of energy out that they can. But they're moving pretty quickly here, touching around about, well, hovering just about 46, 47 kilometres an hour as Hermansson leads them into the final 200 metres. Spardstrom on the wheel of her teammate, keeping things nice and tight. Remember, it is the third rider to count, and the finish line comes at last for Team Swedish Swifters as they cross the line. Toyota Cryo RDT are the team next on course, and they've really closed the gap here on Swedish Swifters, Hannah.
Yeah, this is mightily impressive from Toyota Cryo RDT. And Miller, one of those riders who went for that intermediate bonus. She leads the team across the line, finishing very strongly with the four riders. As we take a look at Virginia's Blue Ridge 2024, Kulczynski at the moment with McIntosh in her wheel. Slight gap starting to open up here. Naomi de Pennington just starting to struggle with the sheer pace. But at the moment, the way that they've kept their formation within the team has been fantastic. She just gets herself back on terms now. But Virginia Blue Ridge 2024, man, finishing with the full complement of the five riders.
Yep, that's exceptionally well disciplined. Kulczynski driving on the front, Brady, McIntosh, Lawson and Natalie de Pennington just there. So they're using that raw power that Christian Kulczynski possesses. She could ride on the front pretty much all day, but the key is trying to stay together. Use your strong riders tactically in the best way that you can. That was a long pull there by Kulczynski. McIntosh opened things up. They'll be going around that bend very shortly. McIntosh opens up her sprint, leaves a little bit of a gap, but remember, it is the third rider to count. The way things stand at the moment, it looks like it's going to be Brady or Lawson. Kulczynski just off the wheel there. But there we go. They crossed the line. Very solid ride by then. But Canyon SRAM aren't too far behind. They're well inside here, Hannah, the final kilometre. So that means they're definitely, sorry, Canyon, too many Canyons knocking about. Canyon Esports, should I say. Mary Wilkinson on the front, Stephanie Sidlick and Cécile Lejeune here. But they do appear to have closed up on Virginia Blue Water 2024.
They do, and I think if they were on one of the long straight sections on this course and they had Virginia Blue Ridge 2024 in their sights, it provides that carrot, it provides that chase for them while still trying to maintain their formation and ride to their strengths and their tactic. At the moment, still again with the full complement of riders, with the 5, Mary Wilkinson doing such a long turn here, really emptying the tank to be able to get back any time possible. And at the moment, look at this, a blanket finish between the team with Wilkinson, Sidlick, Lejeune coming through, and Beast Mode powered by Rose also having a great evening of racing tonight, Matt.
They certainly are. This is going to be very, very tight at the top. And this is a very well-drilled team. We know how well disciplined they are. We know that they practice regularly the team time trials, and they're looking very, very effective here. Beast Mode powered by Road powering down this final section, and they are hovering at around 47 kilometers an hour, really moving exceptionally quickly. Schumann, Brune, Haag, Marb and Krom getting a lot of ride-ons as well. Thank you very much for getting involved, everybody who is watching. It looks like it's Rebecca Richardson. They're just about to catch within sight of the line. There's that final sweeping bend. There is the finishing gantry. And it is going to be Elisa Haag who crosses the line in 3rd place for Beast Mode powered by Rose. And not too far behind is Movistar with Beth Mckeever, who were earned Movistar that 10-second bonus. Story, Delana and Hayley Simmons still there. So a good looking formation here, Hannah, for Movistar.
A fantastic formation, and despite the effort that Beth Mckeever did for that bonus sprint, she's got herself back in. She's still got something left in the tank to do a very, very strong turn on the front to deliver Movistar E-Team with the best possible chance of putting themselves up there in a shout with winning this team time trial this evening. And they have such a strong team, a strong roster of riders. Hayley Simmons just coming around the outside there with Delana. A great performance from Delana tonight in the team time trial. She really excels here, but Mckeever, nothing is stopping her. She's still got the power in the legs to cross the line first as a first rider for Movistar E-Team.
Well, Movistar crossed the line there as we look at, they've passed through the line. So the fastest team so far, Toyota Cryo RDT with a 33.05. That is the time to beat. Hino are coming down the finishing straight very, very shortly indeed. 2nd place, that was from Movistar with a 33.09. But remember, we do have to factor in the time bonuses. Hino just about to cross the line. They just distanced one rider there, so Hino, what have they managed to do? We'll get that time as soon as we can. And they are in 1st place, so Hino have ridden a perfectly paced race so far. 32.36 by Team Hino. And this is the 3-woman squad from Ionian. They've had such a hard day out with only 3 riders here, Hannah.
They have. It's been a hard defence for them to try and defend their 3rd place overall in the team standings as it currently is, and they've just had to play to the best of their abilities, play to their strengths, not take too many risks, just make sure that they try and limit their losses come the end of this team time trial. But it's been an exceptional performance from Keller, Aragist and Estrate as they go under the Flamme Rouge with 1,000 metres remaining of this 24-kilometre team time trial this evening.
Yep, absolutely gorgeous day here in France. It's been a tough day for Ionian. But remember, just a reminder of the fastest team, 32.36 for the Hino Racing Team. We are looking at the 3-rider squad of Ionian. Ionian have had such a strong season so far, but they're going to have to dig deep into the reserves. It's so much harder to ride a team time trial with only 3 riders. They've had to be very, very disciplined indeed. Unsurprisingly, didn't strike out for that bonus sprint. They've had to ride relatively conservatively, but they are moving very, very well despite. There's the heat map. That just shows you the best place to ride. And although there are only 3 riders strong there, Hannah, that's a perfect illustration, or should I say a very clear illustration of why it's so important to ride on the wheel. Is Anna Haste using that real power to pull her team home.
Yeah, it's so impressive, isn't it, to see the formation, and as you say, despite only having 3 riders, just making sure that they're making the best of the situation and making sure that when they are recovering, when they're not on the front pulling and doing their turn, that they are making the best of the draft. And that is certainly what Ionian have done as they come across the line, 3 abreast at the moment.
Well, they crossed the line at 33.40. That's 7th place so far, but Saris, no pins. Look at this. They're absolutely flying. Isla, Van Hurling, Catherine Curry, Nelson just at the back. So Curry looks like she might be the rider that posts the time. She draws clear, nice and tight formation. They cross the line. What is the team? But not too far behind Wahoo. It's all happening here in Douce France. Wahoo Lacole are rolling through. Hino still led with the fastest time of 32.36. What can Wahoo Lacole do? They cross the line here in France. We wait with bated breath for the confirmation, and they have done it. 32.14 for Wahoo Lacole. What a performance by the team that are dominating the Zwift Racing League so far, Hannah.
Exceptional performance there from Wahoo Lacole, and yeah, tremendous stuff. Just knocking Hino off. I think they provisionally in 2nd position, but we have another team who has taken a victory in the team time trial, knocking off Canyon Esports from last season's team time trial. Hino Racing, who have been the dominant force across the majority of team time trials that we've ever seen, Matt. But we wait and we wait for the official.
Indeed, we'll wait for the official. Here we go. We should be popping on our screens. There we go. Wahoo Lacole. Well, even when you factor in the time bonuses, which we'll do in a few moments' time, Wahoo Lacole with the fastest time on the course there, 32.14. It's a sizable lead, but great to see Hino Racing Team back to form, back to where they are used to being. That'll give them a lot of confidence there with a 32.36. Saris no pins in 3rd with a 32.59. Then we have Toyota Cryo, great ride by them with a 33.05. Movistar with a 33.09. Beast Mode powered by Rose in 6th with 33.10. Then we have Canyon Esports in 7th, the same time as Virginia Blue Ridge 2024. Rocker Corbett in 9th. Ionian, Kirkmare, Team Swedish Swifters, ATP Racing Venom, and Canyon SRAM in 14th. Back to you guys in the studio. Lots and lots to talk about.
Wahoo Lacole continue with the absolutely perfect score in Season 2 of the ZRL. They won the 1st round, the 2nd round, the 3rd round, and now they have dominated the team time trial today for round 4. They do have their bonus seconds to be taken off as well, don't forget. It's not going to affect the result as we thought it perhaps might. They took 2nd up that climb, courtesy of Zoe Langham, sprinting from the back and taking those 5 seconds. It was Movistar, as Matt and Hannah were talking you through, who took the full 10 seconds at that particular point on the course after Beth Mckeever sprinted up the QOM, should I say. And obviously, she managed to stay with the team. Not only that, impressively, she led the team home. She was the first rider across the line for Team Movistar. They ended the night in 5th as they crossed the line with their time. We do have to remember we need to take 10 seconds off. So I think they might leapfrog Toyota in 4th once the final results come through and possibly even get themselves up to 3rd position. We'll find out just as soon as we possibly can. But yeah, 22-second difference between 1st and 2nd on the evening. Hino in 2nd behind Wahoo Lacole in 3rd. By my calculations, there was a 45-second gap between our winners this evening, Wahoo Lacole and Saris No Pins in 3rd, and Toyota at 51 seconds provisionally. But just to remind you, we do have those bonus seconds to take off as well. So all very interesting. Obviously, Wahoo Lacole are still leading this series overall, but we'll find out what the gaps are in terms of points just as soon as we get those graphics up, which shouldn't be too long from now. It's not too long either until we get the start of the men's team time trial. It'll be interesting to see whether they've learnt a little bit from what they saw in the women's race just a few moments ago. Will we see individual riders sprinting up that KOM to take the bonus seconds, or will they try to just stick together and get the fastest they can all the way to the finish line? Hannah is just about to join me again here on the sofa to discuss the women's team time trial that we have just seen. Another dominant performance by Wahoo Lacole. Not only did they have the fastest time checks all the way through and at the finish, they even took those 5 bonus seconds midway round.
It's quite exceptional. I mean, where does it stop? No one can get close, can they? When you see the finishing times come the end of the team time trial without the bonus seconds, it really was a dominant performance.
Well, I understand that we can now look at the final results, including with the bonus seconds taken off. So let's have a look. About to look at that camera. Now it's back onto this one. So here we are then. The final results, Wahoo Lacole ending up with 27-second advantage over Hino Racing with those 5 bonus seconds taken off. Sarah's No Pins remain in 3rd. Movistar did leapfrog Toyota Cryo to take 4th place on the day. 5th went to the team in Toyota. Beast Mode in 6th. Canyon Esports, the winners of the team time trial last time around in the previous series, they took 7th on the day. Surely they'll be disappointed with that. As you'd expect, will the Ionian race team down in 10th of 14 tonight, Hannah?
Yeah, it was a bit of a disappointing evening for Ionian, and I think this is what we were speaking about earlier on. If you have one bad evening tonight, this is where things could all change. You've had such a strong points race so far, and unfortunately only 11 points scored for the team overall classification.
Yeah, you can see them there in 4th place, 17, 19, 17, and then down to 11 points on round 4. Wahoo Lecole, the full 20 across the board. They've now got an 8-point advantage over Sarah's No Pins, who've been very consistent, not far behind them. Hino Racing Team in 3rd place. They're 11 points off the lead now. And if we go beyond the Ionian team, we've got Movistar in 5th. They are 19 points adrift. Beast Mode at 21 points behind the leaders. And Canyon Esports now mid-table. They're on 54 points, which means they're 26 off the lead, which is going to be nigh on impossible for them to make up. Very obvious who were the winners of this evening, Wahoo Lecole. We spoke about it before the start of their race. You know, what are they doing so well? Any clearer as to what that tactic might be? Or is it just power, pure power?
I think it's a combination of everything. The power, the way that they're racing, their tactics, I think, are certainly coming into the fore with the way that they're racing. And when you see how they raced for that intermediate checkpoint bonus, the way they rode, it was very, very different to the way the other teams had rode it. Zoe Langham came from the back, she used the draft of her teammates and then catapulted herself up the climb. Okay, they only took the 5, however, just the way that she was able to recover afterwards, get herself back on, I mean, just the way that they're riding is exceptional.
It is exceptional, and I understand that we can now talk to one of the riders, Lizzie Brooke, from Wahoo Lecole. Can you hear me, Lizzie?
Hey!
I've got you as well. Congratulations first and foremost. What a day it's been for you, and what a series so far. 4 wins from 4.
Yeah. Amazing. Hang on, I can see myself on the camera, so I'm just going to walk away. I can see myself on the TV. Okay, I'm good to go.
Great. Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear. Talk us through the tactics for tonight. Whatever you did, it clearly paid off.
We've been practicing this every single Thursday for the TTT. So we were confident.
Think we're about to lose you, unfortunately. Maybe you went away from the Wi-Fi hub. Hopefully we'll get her back fairly shortly. Beth Mckeever, what a ride she did. I mean, she stormed up the Queen of the Mountain section. She went up it so quick, actually. She did have a long rest period afterwards, didn't she, before her team caught her back up? Ideally
for her. I mean, it was literally like she was shot out of catapult up the Queen of the Mountain, wasn't it? And she had such a lead, a commanding lead over her teammates going through that arch that you could barely see them in the distance. It did mean that she did give herself a lot of time to recover on that descent over the backside, and which played into her hands that she did have perhaps 45 seconds where she could just get her breath back, recover from that exceptional effort, and get herself back in the turn that she did towards the end as well to lead the team through the finish line. Again, very, very strong, well drilled for Movistar. Yeah, and you've got to say that that tactic was well played because, given the fact that she didn't get dropped from the team afterwards, it means that they probably wouldn't have gone much faster had she not done that attack on the climb. Yeah, precisely, and it's a huge gamble. She's one of the strongest riders within the team, and of course a team time trial, it's about all of the riders. It's not just about one sole rider, but I think she's such a key element of the team and their success. Yeah, she certainly couldn't be missed, but it worked in their favour. Well, I think we might have her on the line now, hopefully with a better Wi-Fi connection. Here she is. Beth, that was some effort that you made after the climb. How on earth did you recover in order to get back onto the wheel of your teammates?
I think just pure determination. We still had kilometres to go, so there was no excuses. We just had to suck it up and go with it.
And you even led the team across the line at the finish, I noted. So it obviously didn't take too much out of you. You were still able to contribute to the pace setting in the closing stages.
Yeah, well, so in about 1 kilometre to go before the King of the Mountain, I just kind of sat on the group and then just gave it all. And because I made a wee bit of a gap, I had time to recover there. So I was pretty ready just to jump straight back on and back into rotation, which was good.
And as a team, how pleased are you with the result? You were up to 4th after the bonus seconds had been brought into play at the finish there. Pleased with that?
Yeah, really pleased. I mean, we were 1 rider down from the start tonight. Unfortunately, Steph couldn't join us, and she's such a key rider in the TTT. She's so strong. So, yeah, really chuffed with that result.
Yeah, so you should be. Well, personally for you, I thought that was an unbelievable ride. So congratulations. You've been brilliant this series again, and we hope to speak to you again soon. Cheers, Beth.
Thank you so much. Bye.
As Beth said there, Hannah, they were 1 down from the start. It does make a big difference, doesn't it, in a team time trial? So gutsy, really, to have that tactic on the QOM.
It is, and as we said before, it could not play out the way you want it to. It is a huge risk, what they did. And with missing Steph Clutterbuck from their roster, she's a brilliant time trialist. She's one of the strongest riders, or strong riders on the team, who's got that real horsepower. She's almost a little bit like a diesel, where she can just sit on the front and push out such high watts. So she will have been missed tonight. However, they had to tack and adapt their tactics.
They did, and it worked out for them. However, as I mentioned before, Canyon Esports will be disappointed, you'd imagine, with their result this evening, and they were 3rd on that QOM. So they did pick up 3 bonus seconds, but it made little or no difference to them in the end. Do you think they'll be looking back and thinking they could have played things differently tonight?
I think they will, but I think with all of the teams, it's something that's not been done before. I think being willing to go for that gain, because in the end, those 3 bonus seconds could have been what they needed between 1st and 2nd place, or even the higher the podium positions. Unfortunately, it didn't quite work out the way they would have liked to, but always next week to try and come back and gain some more points now.
Next week and the week after. I mean, when we look at the series standings now, Wahoo Lacole look like they're in a position where they can't be ousted from top spot. But that's not the case, is it? Because have we got double points the last week? Am I right in saying that?
We have. We've got the double points, so certainly not all over yet.
No, you don't want to get it wrong on the last day, do you?
Certainly don't. I mean, it's all good and well that you are getting it right currently, but making sure that you are successful, or at least up there, and not having a bad evening on that final round, because it can certainly do you harm. I
was looking at the race book earlier. I know a lot of people out there are going to be pleased to know that the invisibility power-up is returning for that 6th and final race, isn't it?
Oh, that was a wonderful one. I think it's one of my favourite ones, I think, that we've seen in a race scenario, in a race situation. It was fantastic, so glad to hear about that.
Shame they didn't have it today, really. That could have mucked a few teams up, couldn't it? They didn't see their 3rd rider. Right, just before we turn our attention onto the men's race, I'm going to take this opportunity to let you all know what we've got coming up on GCN Plus this week, because there is a lot of live racing. It starts tomorrow. It's the 5-day Saudi tour with 3 of the best sprinters in the world set to do battle. Caleb Ewan, Dylan Groenewegen, and initially Sam Bennett on the start list. However, I recently read that he hasn't gone over to Saudi, unfortunately. 2 stage races, though, do start on Wednesday here in Europe. In Spain, it's the Vuelta a la Comunitat Valenciana, and in France, it is the Étoile de Bessèges. Some seriously big names lining up for both of those races. And on Sunday, the women's season starts with the Vuelta Valenciana, and we've got more cyclocross races coming for you this weekend as well, as that season draws to a close. All of those races will be available live and on demand on GCN Plus, but as ever, please check the territory restrictions to see if they are available where you are. Right, on to the men's race then, and just before we look at the team lineups for tonight, a reminder to you all of what happened 7 days ago.
Going to full sprint mode. This is a big attack, the biggest attack of the night so far. Look how deep Leandro is digging here. He has taken that sprint at a canter. The finale of this race is going to be outstanding. It's just back-to-back body blow after body blow. Ollie Jones again has gone too early, I fear. He's been caught within sight of this final sprint. Teppo Lorio, the legend from Finland, takes it with 40. Emmerich is flying clear for beast mode powered by Rose. One more track to go and he will see the finish line, still carrying a lot of momentum here, but it looks like he's going to get caught again.
You had that helmet, that aero power up 25% slipperier right now, and that's going to make all of the difference. We've opened the throttle all the way up, and look at all the next jerseys. They're trying to make a comeback here. Who's going to hit hard? And that's that. Let's see who gets this one.
It was indeed James Barnes who emerged from the melee to take the win there. Another win for Next Esports.
Well, this is how things looked after the evening in terms of points on the round 3 itself. Next Esports dominant again, 130 points. 84 went to Callis, and in third, the World Elite Zwifters on 67 points. PO Auto Ceramic Speed in fourth. Wahoo Lacole have been doing some decent rides in the men's racing as well. They came fifth on the evening. Canyon Esports in sixth. Then it was Restart Racing, the Movistar E team, BZR Sports Solid Lacole, and then the Saris No Pins team rounding out the top 10. We'll have the overall series standings for you soon, I'm sure. James Barnes we saw taking the win in the round last week, Hannah, but looking at the start list, he's down as sort of first reserve. He's not doing the team time trial. Any insights?
No, not really. However, interesting, could be something that he wants to miss around to try and focus on the points races, the final 2 races in week 5 and 6, and then really look ahead to the World Championships. He had such success, and the team do have to try and change their roster around in order to give some of their riders a little bit of recovery and respite after a hard, solid few weeks of racing.
And also, I guess, give some of their riders a chance to race themselves
in the
CRL. Also, bearing in mind, we've got the Esports World Championships coming up on Zwift, haven't we? That's sanctioned by the UCI, of course. We saw the World Champions rainbow jersey of Ashley Moolman-Pasha. What is it, about 4 weeks away now?
Yeah, 26th of February. So, time is starting to tick down. Riders really starting to ramp up their training whilst combining the ZRL Premier Division and really looking ahead with a strong focus. And I'm sure James Barnes, after his recent form, really eyeing that one.
Yeah, he's a big favourite, that's for sure, isn't he? All right, let's take a look at the series standings then in the men's series at the moment. After 3 rounds, with 3 rounds still to go. Next Esports are at the very top of those standings with the full 60 points so far after winning all 3 rounds. 7 points adrift are the Callis team in second after taking third, then fifth, but then second in the last round. Canyon Esports are in third. They are 9 points adrift of the lead. Wahoo Lacole in fourth place overall, 12 points down. On the same number of points, though, as the BZR Sports Solid Lacole team. Also locked together on points are 3 teams from 6th to 8th. PO Auto Ceramic Speed, then Restart Racing, and then the Movistar E team in 8th. Saris, then Team Swedish Zwifters rounding out the top 10. Based on what you saw in the women's race, based on what you've seen in terms of start lists and rider lineups tonight, which we'll get onto shortly, are you expecting any surprises at all in the men's race later? Well,
if we look at the way that Next Esports have been racing, I think they can continue that success. How they're going to do it without the likes of James Barnes, Tom Thrall, but they, of course, must be confident with the lineup that they've got going. I'm intrigued to how Callis will go, because they have been consistent. They had that little bit of a dip in week 2, but otherwise been very, very consistent and still challenging. So it'd be great to see them put up a real fight, and how the teams, having seen the women's race, how they take the intermediate bonus sprint for those time bonuses, because are they going to realise it's certainly worth it? Okay, we're going to change our tactics now.
Yes.
Or are they going to stick to their original game plan one way or the other? I think it's a real telling sign.
It will be interesting to see if any of them have changed their game plan. We won't know, of course. We don't know what their game plan is. But as Hannah said, and as we saw in the women's race, there's a real knack to getting it right in a ZRL team time trial, just as there is in a real life team time trial. And one man who's got a lot of experience at directing a team in this discipline is Reese Howe. He's the Canyon's esports director, and he's given us an insight into what it's like directing from the virtual team car.
So obviously I've been doing this since I started the team in January 2019. I remember our first season together was the KISS Community League, and yeah, I've just really been used to kind of fan viewing and skipping through the names of riders, and being kind of omnipotent basically, and kind of being in all different places and providing that kind of feedback.
From a tactical point of view, how is the team time trial different to the points races?
It's going to be a little bit different on Monday, but we have these time bonus over the aqua.com. So that's been an interesting point of conversation. Will we, won't we go for it? But otherwise, the guys just know they just have to bury themselves. I'll be watching the live stream at the same time because I want to get an idea of the time gaps. And so I normally relay this information back to the guys. And it depends how we kind of react to that. And sometimes I actually won't necessarily tell them because sometimes it's beneficial that they don't know, to be honest. So I never lie to them, but sometimes I might not tell them everything. It's inevitable that at some point wheels will overlap. And we just try and say, everybody stay calm. To be honest, this is the main thing you have to do, is to say, stay calm, deal with them kind of quickly and don't stress about them, because then people's heart rates start going up. And sometimes you've been in time trials where people are shouting at each other and you're like, this is the wrong thing to be doing, and everyone takes it down a notch. So those are the main things you have to kind of focus on.
Reece, so you're talking about the communication aspect to the riders and using Discord, how you give your tactics out as a virtual DS. Can you talk us through your setup, please?
Okay, so this is my typical setup for when I'm DSing. I'll normally have my microphone here. I'll have the live stream here. I'll have Zwift here, so I'll be checking through, watching the riders as they ride along. And then on my last screen, I will have Discord, so I'll be talking to them. So normally I also have headphones on. I've got a choice of mics to choose from. I've got this one mounted here. I've got this smaller one. Or sometimes I use these smart glasses as well. So that allows me to basically have all the information and be able to relay that back to the riders live during the race.
Reece, thanks so much for your insight into the life of a DS and your role at Canyon Esports. Thanks very much. All the best for the team time trial.
Thank you. Been a pleasure.
Some setup that, wasn't it? My take home from that was that you should tell your riders fibs in order to have success. Oh, no, that was Reece Howe, a lot of experience in directing Team Canyon Esports, and they've had a lot of success in the team time trial. We'll see how they get on tonight. Let's go on to our key teams for tonight, and of course we have to start with the next esports team. They have Nikki Hoog, Zach Nair, should I say, Mark Bruce, Dan Turek and Scott Cantazzaro. Can they be beaten?
Well, I think if they've, going off the last few weeks, or the last couple of months actually, it's their race to lose, isn't it? But I think with the strength and depth and the way that they're really putting so much focus into their recons and their tactics, I don't think so.
It's certainly going to be very, very hard to beat them given recent form for the last few months. Really, isn't it? On to Canyon Esports then. Let's see who they are fielding tonight. Gary Muller, Ollie Jones of New Zealand, Lionel Viasin, Antoine Noppen and Spencer Segerbrook is their five-man lineup. Any chance of them taking the victory, would you say, tonight?
It could well maybe. I mean, they do have one of the most experienced teams in terms of riders, but also experience with the sports director Reece Howe, who we just saw there, who started the team back in 2019. Certainly got a lot of experience in the team time trial here, Dan.
They have. And finally, just before we hand over to Matt for live commentary again, the Saris No Pins team, who was second in the team time trial behind Next last season. They've got David Talbot, Ryan Larson, Eric Levinson, John Jantz and Cameron Cogburn as their five-man lineup for this evening. Right then, just a few seconds to go now then until the first men's team rolls off the start ramp for their team time trial. Tactics could be very interesting indeed in tonight's proceedings. Hannah's not going to be commentating because it's Dave Tao. I'll get that bit right. So I'll hand you over initially though to Matt Stevens. Over to you.
Thank you very much indeed, Dan. A very, very entertaining women's team time trial. And now it is the turn of the men. Same course, same route, same location. So it is bonjour because we're in Douce France. There we go. Confirmation, 24.1 kilometers is the total distance. It's a gently rolling course, giving us an elevation of 133 meters in total. Got a time check at 7.1 Ks at the balance sprint. second time check at 13.2 Ks at the Pave Sprint, and then the all-important bonus. We'll say all-important, it could be all-important, but it's certainly something for the teams to think about. That's the bonus arch aqueduct. So the stage is set. Is another team capable of breaking the stranglehold of the next team? That is the order of the teams today. Last team off, who currently sit in 14th, 15th place, should I say, in the league, Beast Mode Powered by Roads. The teams go off at 1 minute intervals, and the final team to depart the start gate and head on to this beautiful course in France is the team that are in the lead next, Esports. First team is off. Just a reminder, alongside me is the legend. It is the legend that is Dave Toll. And Dave, I tell you what, we've got some belters of some facts to talk about. Dave, I'll throw to you first, mate. First team off, Beast Mode Powered by Road. Great to be alongside you again, mate.
Well, bonjour, mon ami. It's going to be a fun day of racing. I'll tell you what, the women really set the table for us here in France, didn't they, Matt? I was a little surprised, to tell you the truth, to see the number of teams that used a designated rider or a duo of riders to go after those bonus seconds. So it'll be interesting to see which, as everyone has noted, this is a great addition to the team time trial, no doubt about it. This is the Beast Mode team, and the Germans are certainly adept at this. They've spent their time in the Zwift community racing on Thursdays. Matt, there's no more brutal discipline in cycling, in my mind, than exactly what we're doing here. Maybe on the velodrome, the team pursuit as well. But how deep you have to dig when you're not feeling good, because that's really the bizarre thing about team time trialing. No matter how good or bad you're feeling, you have to stay in the mix with the team.
You certainly do, Dave. Next up, it's Team Italy. Luca Zanzasca, they're in P2. Riccardo Penizza, Alessandro Barra, Davide Fimagali, and Luca Vogalito, sorry, get my pronunciations right. The team that's at 14th place. So great to see this squad, of course, promoted from the Community League last time, already in that good formation. But Dave, I do echo your sentiments about how brutal the team time trial is. It's a completely different sort of pressure than riding on your own. Of course, all of the ZRL is a team sport, but nothing quite like this. You really do have to communicate, and you have to sacrifice yourself for other people. It is unique. Great shot here of the riders from Beast Mode, although we are looking at on the road at the Italian squad. But in these early stages, this team's just settling into that rhythm. They'll be riding at or around between 49 and 51 Ks an hour. This really is a very, very good course day for the team time trial. Next up, though, it is Team Aero that should be out of the pens very, very shortly indeed. But a good early start for the Italians here, Dave.
It's funny, Australians now on our screen, the Aussies, the Germans, the Italians. If you look back through the history of the team time trial, what a great Olympic and World Championship event it was, Matt. Typically the 100-kilometer distance. We're here at 24.2. There's a bit of a run-in to get out onto the loop to take you just over 24 kilometers of racing. So this is done and dusted, not much more than half an hour. We'll see how close they get to that. Now, this team's got the fighting spirit, no doubt about it. James Harvey, Sam Hill, Benjamin Hill, Mark O'Brien, and Nick Velipniks here. It's going to be interesting to see what they can do. We've got that first check coming up at 7K. We've talked a lot. So I've been coached up on the Ballon sprint, and that's certainly, that line will tell us a lot about how the day is going to play out, to tell you the truth. It's not a challenging course. What's challenging is doing exactly what the Australians are doing here right now, as we're going to pick up a team that's they spend a lot of time in the community as well, honing their craft, sharpening their sword, if you will, Matt. This is the mighty Velocio team. There's Charles McCarthy moving to the front.
Yeah, Charles McCarthy just taking off there for the United States. This was the team that courted a lot of controversy. Well, because of the white shorts. In fact, they're the only team in the league wearing in white shorts, but less of the periphery stuff. No, they're a team that have worked well, but betting themselves in. They, of course, were promoted to the Premier League from the community. And I do love the system that we have in place in the ZRL. Teams dropping down, teams being promoted. It really is a real democratic way of working things. But they've got a nice tight formation early on. As Dave said, there's a little bit of a lead in 780 meters before they commence that loop. And on our screens right now, well, that is World of Elite Zwifters, was, as we like to call them.
Yeah, and this is a team that certainly lives up to their name. As we see, Takaro Ikeda, Paul Odlin has been one of the most aggressive riders that we've seen here, and it's going to be interesting to see what they can put together out here today. The teams really, this is an opportunity to make some real headway, Matt, when you look at how we score it. This is the only team time trial that we have here in the Premier League, and if you're going to come after the king, you best not miss. And today is your chance to try to get some headway on the mighty next team. And they've already put, I mean, they are on quite a run right now. As a matter of fact, one of the greatest winning streaks that we've seen in the history of the ZRL is happening right now. You have to look, I think, the greatest of all time in the women's side of things, Hino. Well, we've seen Wahoo Lacole come on incredibly strong there. And Matt, here on the men's side of things, we're watching this evolution with the next team moving up as the Kings of the Hill, but there's still some teams, and I'm telling you, they'll start later as we start in reverse order based on how they've scored so far this season through the first 3 races. But watch out for Callis today, Matt. I'm telling you, that Norwegian team is absolutely ready to drill it out here. We haven't talked about them enough this season. They're quietly sitting right there as a major, major threat.
They are indeed. We'll talk about those in a bit. But next up, they're sitting in 10th place overall. They're out on course in the early stages. This is Team Swedish Zwifters. Unsurprisingly, all from Sweden. I'll list their number: John Vrem, Jakob Björkland, Johan Norin, Henrik Oja, and Stefan Hobstadius. We're seeing a few different names at this point in the season as well, because teams can field as few as 3 riders, but a maximum of 5. But they can actually choose from around 10 riders. They'll perm out, and we are seeing a few riders resting up, perhaps as we're now midway through. But a good formation early on, as we look at a kit in stark contrast to the blue and white and yellow. It's the pink and white of Saris, Dave.
Yeah, David Talbot, Ryan Larson, Eric Levinson, John Jantz, and Cameron Cogburn. Cameron Cogburn's a great pickup for this team. He's got pro bona fides already on his race resume. Well, right now he's finding out what this team time trial is all about here. David Talbot, tremendous experience as he's setting the pace. That's going to be Jantz fighting back here. And it looks like it's West, actually, is in there for Cameron Cogburn today. We did have, because of the worldwide COVID situation, Matt, we're allowing the teams to have one last-minute first reserve, we're calling it. I think that's what's happened right here, as riders would be allowed by the rules. It's a really nice of the powers that be in the Zwift Racing organization to make that adjustment. And it looks like it's being taken advantage of here by Saris No Pins.
Yeah, definitely, Dave. I do agree with you. We're now looking at the Movistar E-Team in the first few meters of their ride. A truly international team. Really great to see the World Tour squad Movistar having an esports team amongst their broader cycling community. But it is a real international team. Unsurprisingly, we have a Spaniard, Miguel Angel Andres. We have Daniel Gould of Denmark, Pim van Diemen. He really is a demon on the bike from the Netherlands. Also in the mix, the United Kingdom are represented by Jimmy Kershaw. And then we have the Norwegian Vidar Meld. This is a very, very strong team. 8th on the grid here today, and they sit 8th overall. It will be interesting to see what they can do out today. Will they be one of the teams that deploys somebody like the female counterparts? Of course, fired Beth Mckeever up the road, and that's we'll soon find out, Dave. But I wonder if anybody has actually learned. But next up on the ramp to talk through is Restart, Dave.
This is a team that has a wicked talent. Adrien Villiers from France has got quite a sprint, but when you look at the horsepower on this team, they might surprise some folks out here today, Matt. This Restart team with Daniel Jemrosic, he's been one of the most aggressive riders. I was talking about the New Zealander, Paul Odlin, on World Elite Zwifters earlier. Same thing could be said about Daniel Jemrosic. He is relentless. The German, this is a name we've really come to know and love, Felix Schwiebe. Jaden Yeager, who's a multi-time U.S. national champion, and we're coming up on the split right now. Beast mode just across the line here.
Good little move there. Back to the team that you were just describing. As you said, Dave, they've got some really powerful riders here. Aggressive in the scratch points races, but we can get confirmation at the time, for the first time through beast mode stored, or have posted, should I say, 8 minutes and 54 seconds. But I do expect that to be beaten a little bit later on, taking nothing away from the German team. Pio also, Dave, are the next team out of the pens and well on their way.
This is a team that has some real credentials, Matt. They've been, when you go back to the very, very early days of the ZRL, they were one of the top teams. And let's see if Michael Knudsen, who's been on the podium, I know the World Championships are coming up, and these riders are starting to ramp things up. Emil Tudal, they really have, again, the potential. You never know, do you, Matt, with a team like this, what they can do here. If they have a great day, they could end up on the podium. If they have an average to middling day, it's amazing how quickly you get overtaken by the talented squads out here. But clearly, Knudsen, and we're going to look at Italy there coming through. Let's see, we'll get a chance to look at all of these splits. Now, after they go through that split, they move into an interesting phase of the course. That's the Aqueduct KOM, where those bonus seconds are available. 3 teams. And this is going to be BZR Sports Solid that we're looking at, the all-Belgian team, Matt.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. Just a confirmation, we saw Italy cross the line there. In second place at the first split. They did an 8:59. But yeah, this is a very, very strong team and great to see. We'll be waving our flags because we're all a big fan here of Lennart Turgels. He is back in the mix there, riding number 24. This is a powerful, powerful team. Oliver Simmons, Mathieu de Kock, Lennart Turgels, Stefan van Alst and David de Schmecht. That is the squad. Expect them to post a pretty decent time today. They are the team that sits 5th overall in the league positions. And with Turgels back on board, he's going to be a key component part of this squad. As we look at Aero just coming through, just rolling across the line. Nice and tight formation there by the Australians. They will get confirmation of their time very, very shortly. But it's time for the appearance, Dave, of Wahoo Lekol.
Well, and there's some big names on this team. I know Teppo Lorio, the Finnish rider, has a tremendous number of fans. As we get a good look at coming out as they spawn out of the pens. Again, there is a lead-in. It's 782 meters that takes them onto the circuit then, which is just over 23K of racing. There's the Welsh Dragon himself, Howell Davies. So, Matt, this Wahoo Lekol team, they are looking to have a big, big ride out here today. This is an opportunity for them to climb the points table, no doubt about it. They just watched what their women's team did. They should be hyper motivated to deliver a result out here. The only married couple, I don't know if you and Hannah had a chance to note that. Matt Brook now will be cheered on by Lizzie Brook, who we just had competing on the winning women's team. Let's see if they can both take home a win today.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, as you said, Dave, it's a great little tidbit of information there. But Velocio just went through second fastest at that first intermediate split, posting an 8:57. And next up, out of the pen, Canyon Esports, sitting 3rd overall. A couple of teams behind them, then everybody will be on the road. But Canyon Esports, we know how well they can ride a team time trial. They've won in the past, didn't win last season, but previous seasons they have come out fastest. And the team that they are putting out today in Douce France is the South African Gary Muller, New Zealander represented by Ollie Jones, their Belgian legend now riding for another country, Lionel Villasin, of course, Antoine Knoppen, and then Spencer Segerbrook, the American, as we have another team just rolling through the arch there. That's World of Elite. Zwift is just rolling through there. Their time will be posted very, very shortly. Have they opted for a quick start? And we'll see their time very, very shortly, Dave. But good to see Canyon Esports out on the road here.
I tell you what, the metric of experience on this team, I don't know if man for man any team could match what Canyon has. It looks like we're going to jump in with Callis now. This is the Norwegian team. I was tipping as this was the penultimate team to start. So, Matt, as you said, just about everybody is out on course here at Douce France. The proving ground in France here. Watch the Norwegians bring it up to speed. This is a team that's going to be in the reckoning, no doubt about it. They have done their homework, Matt, and the team time trialing, I think you'd agree, as someone who's done it at the professional level, that the teams that put in the work and practiced this craft had a decided advantage. As they say, it was all going well out there until it wasn't. And when it wasn't is when you lose heaps of time.
Yep, communication absolutely crucial. You can have two or one super strong rider. If you get the rhythm wrong, if you get the distribution of power wrong, if you don't sit close behind, and that's where you talk about getting the training right, the practice. But a World of Elite Zwifters, actually, Dave, we're looking at the confirmation there. They post the fastest time. Team Swedish Zwifters pass through. Give us a few seconds to post, get their time. But World of Elite Zwifters leading at intermediate split number 1 so far, and the final team that are out of the gate is Next Esports, powered by Insured. Nikki Hug, Zach Nair, Mark Bruce, Dan Julturek, former road professional from the Czech Republic, and representing the United States, Scott Catazano. This is a very, very strong team indeed. Can, Dave, they keep up that 100% record? As look at Saris, no pins passing through the intermediate split.
Yeah, that's the team with David Talbot, Ryan Larson. If we're going to actually jump back in with Next, what an embarrassment of riches Next has here. As James Barnes not even taking the start today. Thomas Thrall, who's been winning in the ZRL, as they move to their team time trial team. Again, you could take this team and split them into 2, and they'd probably have 2 teams in the top 3 right now in the ZRL. Just absolutely amazing what they're doing. That's Zach Nair coming to the front right now. Zach won the Continental Qualifier. That was a big win for him. The top 5 riders there ended up automatically qualifying for the World Championships coming up in late February, so he got a chance to represent the United States. Nicky Hug was also just named to the Swiss team, Matt. So just about half of this team racing right now will be heading to Worlds.
Yes, indeed. Cannot wait to see the World Championships. So we've got a couple more rounds. We've got the Temples and Towers round 5, the Climbers Gambit round 6, and coming through is Movistar now to the first intermediate split. What can they post? A nice tight formation there, all about blobbing up, all trying to get in one long line, but that is so hard. You really do have to keep high power but finesse it so you just stay on the wheel, as we see. And the last team on the road, the final team, then Nicky Hug just towards the back. This is that piece I was talking about earlier on, Dave. It's a real complicated sector here, especially when you're looking at the screen. It really does throw you out a little bit as you get thrown around these corners. Easy to lose that little bit of concentration as a small gap opens here. But look, Saris no pins now, Dave, are the fastest team at the first intermediate split, leading Movistar by 7 seconds with an 8 minutes 40 seconds time.
I'm not surprised, Matt, to see these times so close here. Movistar's got to be happy to be sitting in second, just 1 second there ahead of World Elite Zwifters. But remember, this team is flat out flying right now when you look at Next. And we're going to have Restart, it sounds like, coming in to the arch here. Now, I was expecting a big ride from them here today. It'll take a moment before we update their time here, but that is Restart coming to the arch as we go back now and pick up Next, the final team to start on a 9-race winning streak right now, unprecedented in the men's side of things here in the ZRL, and they look like they're on a good day out here today. These are some very familiar names, and look how they've got this strung out single file, the long thin line of pain. Matt, these guys are hitting over 500 watts when they go to the front here, so you hit the front. This is a very challenging sector, as you guys have noted earlier. It is like being on a roller coaster ride. It will bunch up, but then they'll go right back into single file. These guys are having nearly a perfect race right now.
Yeah, they're looking very good indeed. They're holding the speed that they're riding at the moment is exceptional. They're riding at 58 k's an hour at the moment, so it's just nearly 60 k an hour.
Wow.
This is a ever so slightly downhill section, but they're riding at around 40 miles an hour on this section. That just shows you how strong they are. But you can put somebody on the front and hit 450, 500 watts, then you swing off to the back. But it's all about the formation, and they are looking very good, Dave. But we've got Restart now going through the arch at intermediate split number 1. So it's P Auto, should I say, a very similar kit to Restart, but P Auto gone through as we hit back to the front. But this is a real demonstration, Dave, isn't it, of how to ride a team time trial, keeping nice and close and tight to each other, almost a perfect formation.
And it's great from this view here. Nice work, Size. You know, Matt, you cannot see Callis because they are on a phenomenal ride right now. The Vikings are all rowing well together, no doubt about it. We're picking up Callis here, so this is going to be a battle for the ages, a ding-dong battle here in France right now, Matt. So the Norwegians really are looking to try to take a chunk out here. So we're going to go back to the arch, and this is going to be BZR as we see the Sports Solid team. We'll get a look at their time, 8:40 from Saris No Pins, the fastest we've seen at that 7-kilometer checkpoint. Check 1.
Indeed. Well, BZR Sports Solid, I can tell you, I've posted the second fastest time, 8:45. That'll be corrected there. There it is. Saris Nopin still 5 seconds to the good, but it is very, very early on indeed in this race. That first split, remember, at 7Ks. Next up, very shortly, we'll have a first team passing through the bonus arch at the Aqueduct. That little climb, 420 metres. It's nasty. That comes at 10.9Ks. But you said at the top of the show, Dave, that you think Callas could do something. I think they will. I think they'll not provide an upset so much because they are riding high, that is for sure. But Callas, such a strong team, and look at that, riding a very, very tight formation indeed. You can really tell the teams that practice this discipline, can't you?
They always talk about biases. I think that because these guys' names are so hard to pronounce for the American commentator that you don't hear them enough. And so this team is absolutely nasty. As we're going to go now take a look at Wahoo Lacole as they come through the arch. But I'm only kind of joking because the Norwegian team is really underrated. There's no doubt about it. We're going to talk a lot more about them. Let's go back in. So we just saw Wahoo getting their time at check 1. We're now back in with the next team. This is a well-oiled machine right now. This isn't a Mercedes-Benz. This is a Bugatti that you're looking at out here in France.
Yeah, they're absolutely flying at the moment and moving on at a very, very good pace. It's still, they're putting out the rider on the front, Nicky Hug, who's just rolled off. So Bruce on the front now, putting out big power. 8 watts a kilo he's putting out at the front there, and the rider's just behind putting out 2 watts a kilo less. So Nicky Hug at 7.3 as he moves through. So the riders, as they hit the front, will put out more power. Hug surging a little bit. It's all about keeping it nice and tight, but so difficult as we look at Canyon Esports just passing underneath. What can they post? We know how good they are. They're 3rd overall at the moment. Muller, Jones, Vujasan, Noppen and Segerbrook as we head back to Callas, the team that sits 2nd. They're going to be very happy with that. Great to see, Dave, this heat map really illustrating the importance of keeping things nice and tight, something we can never overemphasize in the team time trial.
It looks like a torch, a wattage torch right now is actually Havant Gelnus, who needs to back off just a little bit. That's going to be Omdahl coming through. So as these guys are absolutely surging right now, they've got to tighten this up because it's going to come down to a second or two in my estimation. They're at that final split. I'm expecting to see these teams going under 8:30, to tell you the truth, at the rate that they are moving right now. There's the arch. So we've only got next right behind the Callas team. So the Norwegians will get their check time here. It's going to be interesting, Matt. It's going to be tight. There's no doubt about it. We've got a battle royale going on. 24.15 kilometers of racing. The Aqueduct is up next, where these bonus seconds, 10, 5, and 3 seconds, are waiting for the team that has the fastest rider through. It's basically your team, but we are, I think, Matt, the tactic that we saw earlier that seems to be working is if you have one rider that's feeling incredibly good, you try to launch him as you go into that sector. So we're going to go back, I think, to the arch here.
Yeah, well, Callas have passed through 8:44, so they've gone through the arch. They're 4 seconds slower than Saris Nopins, so a great start by Saris Nopins, but as you can see, it is very tight at the top, and this makes this bonus arch very, very intriguing as a proposition. This is the final team out on the road, the team that lead the ZRL Next Esports. What a season they have had. Turek takes them through the first intermediate split, 7Ks in to their team time trial in Douce France. Bruce, Catanzaro, Hug, Nair and Turek, what can they post? We wait with a bated breath to see if, well, they're in 7th position at the moment. Well, that is very, very interesting indeed. 8:48, we are getting the information through. So Saris Nopins lead with 8:40. That's still very, very tight at the top. Only 8, Dave. That just shows this is so tight. Only 8 seconds separate the first 7 teams as we head onto the Aqueduct now.
All right, so let's go back in now. So this is P.O. Otto, the ceramic speed that we're looking at. This is the sector we were talking about where the bonus seconds are waiting. So we'll start looking for the tactics being deployed by the different teams out here. I think these guys are going to play it right down the middle, to tell you the truth, Matt. As the Danish team here, they didn't, nothing fancy. They weren't doing no trickery there, no rabbit coming out of the hat. I wouldn't be too surprised, though, if BZR, the team, yeah, there you go. It's going to be Van Elst is going to make a run for these. He's into the zone, the sector, and BZR is going to try to snatch a few extra seconds seconds out from this mid-course bonus spot. Top 3 teams, it's really individual rider representing their team can pick up bonus seconds. Let's see if that was enough from Stefan van Elst.
I tell you what, there's certainly no lack of effort there, wasn't it? He's put around 50 to 100 metres in between him and his team. This will give him an opportunity to rest up, but he went very, very deep there. 26.53. BZR Sports had put themselves right in the driving seat. Nearly, well, a second and a half quicker than the fastest rider from Boyotio. And that was a clear, emphatic move by the Belgians there. And a little bit further down the road is Wahoo Lecole, who will be approaching that intermediate sprint point very, very shortly indeed. And again, looking a very tightly knit unit. Brooke leading, Teppo Loria, a big fan favourite there in third place. Are we going to see one of these riders, Dave, catapult themselves up the road? 26.53, the fastest time so far.
If we did, Matt, it would be Tepio. It's right up his street, as they say. As Teppo's all about doing some extra credit out here. Let's see if that's exactly what we're going to have now. So this team has become very, very competitive. This is a discipline. When you talk about the team's time trial, it is going to be Teppo Loria, the Finnish rider, that's going to go for it here. Maybe giving Alex Tenselhoff a bit of a lead out. Okay, well, they're in it to win it out here today is Wahoo Lecole, and it is Teppo giving Alex a lead out here. We'll see how they score that one. So not every team's going to go for it, Matt, but those that do, I like the fighting spirit out here.
That was really, I mean, they had 28.46. I mean, they're different techniques. So they used one rider, Teppo, to lead out another, but it wasn't fast enough. In fact, just under 2 seconds slower. And now we have Canyon Esports, Gary Muller, Lionel Vujasan, Spencer Segerbrook, the first 3 riders on to the lower slopes of this short but stinging climb. Only 420 metres. What are we going to see from this squad? Vujasan now accelerates. That's a clear acceleration by the Belgian, kicking out the watts here, but Muller shuts him down pretty quickly into the slipstream of the Belgian. What are this team going to do? Looks like they're keeping that formation here. There were initial signs there, Dave, that they were going to go for it. Vujasan still on the front. But again, interesting to see the different techniques employed by these teams.
Almost like the Swiss rider clipping out when attacking in the World Championships yesterday. Maybe something happened right there because it looked like he was going for it. So he drew the sword, but then put it back into the sheath there. I have a feeling the Norwegians won't go for it, to tell you the truth. But I'll be a little surprised because I think they're going to play this conservatively. But whatever Next does will tell me a lot about the sweet science of the team time trial, Matt. As you know that they will have done their research, gotten out there and recon this multiple times. Same thing for the Norwegians. And they are, as far as I can tell, Matt, going to run this one straight down the middle here. Just race this as a pure team time trial and not let these bonus seconds here disrupt what they're all about, which is racing for the top step of the podium today. I have a good feeling about this, but let's see how the back end of the course is going to play out for these teams. That's the arch. Nothing fancy from the Norwegians, as expected.
Yep, as expected. I think you are totally right. Back you up 100% there. They kept that same formation. They're not risking things on the circuit there. They've kept it together. I don't think, well, we'll see soon if they've managed to scratch themselves into the top 10. But BZR Sports Solid are still the team with the fastest time. So they will get that 10 seconds unless, of course, they are beaten by Next Esports, powered by Insured, who are on the lower slopes. There's the time section. They just went through that little red banner here. Nicky Haag on the front, Zach Nair of the United States of America, Daniel Turek of the Czech Republic. Look at the formation here. Maximum benefit of sitting in the slipstream of others. They are so well drilled as they round the final corner. And they look to me, Dave, to be one of the other teams who aren't really going to go full throttle up this climb.
Yeah, I think the only team that really would, or the team that should, is a team that has a rider that's 10% stronger than anyone else on the squad. And that is not the case when you look at the depth that Next Level has out here. So they're going to do it just like the Norwegians. So no monkey business at all. Not going to play around, as this is now nose to the grindstone out here. So you can see that BZR Sports Solid with that fastest time. So I believe this is all obviously still in play, but I think they're going to get the 10 bonus seconds. Velocio, that's a big moment for this team here, as they were one of the teams promoted out of the community from last season. There they are. I believe they will get 5 seconds, and Wahoo Lakol for the 3. So that's our preliminary results at the sprint sector. Everybody is through, as next was the final team to start there, the tail of this race, and with 1 minute separating all the teams as they take the start and being reverse seeded based on prior performance, Matt, wouldn't expect to see any teams making a catch out here today.
No, well, the fastest team at split number 2 at the moment is Saris Nopins with a 16:09. The second fastest team with a 16:17 is BZR Sports Solid, but we're looking at the first team on the road. They were the first team out of the gates on this course. They've kept a pretty tight formation there. This is Beast Mode powered by Rose coming into the final kilometre, should I say. This is sprint 2 for Callas. So let's have a look at what Callas can do. So we'll get confirmation of where they are sitting. But this is Beast Mode powered by Rose coming in to the last 500 or 600 metres here. Still a very tight formation for the Germans. Blue sky here in France today. Betts moves through to the front. Remember, the finish line comes right on just on the exit of this corner. They won't get sight of it, but I tell you what, they will be very relieved, Dave, to cross the line, because this is a cruel discipline.
Well, all right, taking a look here, Saris Nopins remains the fastest team. We're going to get in with next right now, as Turek has been taking some long, hard pulls out here. You can see this team has really cracked the code, as again, they were the final team to start, so we just saw Beast Mode coming across the line there, as we'll start sorting things out on the top of the table here. Can they make it 10 in a row is really the big question here for next, Matt. What a run they are on here.
It is incredible. We'll have a look at Beast Mode just about to cross the line. So Beast Mode powered by Rose across the line. And we'll get their time for you when we can. But they're the first team home. A nice bit of daylight between them and the chasing team behind. But the team that lead on sprint number 2 is at Saris Nopins. And we'll get next esports time for you very, very shortly indeed. But Beast Mode powered by Rose can power down now and sit back and watch the other teams out there. Team Italy head into the finishing straight as well. This is that final little right-hander, and still 5 strong for the Italians, looking very, very well drilled indeed. A nice blanket formation here, Dave, as they cross the line here in Douce France.
Yeah, they're getting things figured out here, no doubt about it, representing Italy quite well out here today. So the Italians now have put pay to their effort. This will be the Australian Aero squad that we're picking up as they make their way into town. Matt, I don't know about, I've never been on a professional team for a team time trial, but I got to have a feeling when you get that last K, there's got to be a sense of relief, as we talked about the trepidation and the pressure on riders, where now you can finally let that motor open up here. You've made it, you've done your work for the team, especially when you've got more than 3 riders, and that's where the finishing time is taken from. So right now, they've got a little bit of wiggle room, and the Australians can bring this one on home. It is, as you noted, you make that right-hand turn, and boom, the line is there, and then this incredible effort is over.
Indeed. Well, Team Italy posted 30.07. Beast Mode powered by Rose 30.29. So it's the Italians who are the quickest team out, but we're looking at the Australian squad. Harvey, Hill, Velo Kicks, what a name that is, and O'Brien flying round this final corner. The finish line comes in sight. Last few metres now, squeezing out. Remember, it's third rider to cross the line where the clock will stop. So it's Hill who will be the final rider. We'll get confirmation of the time for Aero very, very shortly. The newly promoted team to the ZRL. And this is one of the riders that's been detached, or has either punted himself off the front for Velocio or has been dropped. I have a feeling that Cassidy might be just in front, because Velocio just heading in a few metres' time into the final kilometre, passing underneath the Flamme Rouge, Dave.
Yeah, they started 1 minute after the Aero team. This is going to be World Elite Zwifters that we're in with. There's the rest of the squad, so the time will be taken off of this group, whether it's off the front or off the back for that matter. It really doesn't matter, because the third rider is going to be where your time comes from. So this is going to be Ryan Atkins, Kevin Bouchard-Hall, Jason Frank, now of the Velocio team, again promoted, and they've been punching above their weight. They picked up, we think that they grabbed some of those seconds at the bonus earlier, so they went for that. That might explain why they have a rider not in this group right now, Matt. Maybe they paid a price for that. This is the finale for Velocio now.
Well, look at this. The World of Elite Swifters are catching Velocio. It's there. They're not an orange carrot. They're a yellow carrot with white shorts out in front. Akida, Odlin, Yip, and Kalman absolutely romping here. To a very appreciative crowd. They're round that final corner. I don't think they're going to quite catch them on the line, but almost together. Velocio crossed the line 3 strong, and then World of Elite Swifters. This is going to be a very, very good time. They just lost one rider in the final few meters as we pick up Team Swedish Swifters. So the fastest time has been set by World of Elite Swifters. They go into the top of the leaderboard. They're in the hot seat now. 29:48, Dave, is the time to beat.
Wow, that's really impressive. First team to crack the 30-minute barrier out there. This is going to be Sarah Snowpins that we're looking at here. Wow, I wonder how many teams, Matt, if you had to guess on the over-under of how many teams make it under 30 minutes. Is it 5 teams today that are able to do that? It could be.
I mean, it's a great time that's been set, and looking at the class of the teams yet to come in, that's an outstanding performance by World of Elite Swifters. But this is the team that have been setting, well, they set the fastest split at Check 1, 8:40. Check 2 was 16:09. They are the fastest team out on the course, and you are looking at them now. I've never seen pink and white move so fast. West, Larson, Levinson, and Jantz coming into the last few hundred meters, Dave. They're absolutely flying here. This is the last sprint. It is Ryan Larson who takes things up. Talbot there, so they're going to finish 5 strong. What a performance, Dave. Take the Americans home.
What depth to finish with 5 riders here in France. That is a sweet ride here. Hopefully they were all able to pitch in and play their 20% role evenly, as this one is now done and dusted for Sarah Snowpins, a team with a great trajectory. We're going to jump in with Swedish Swifters, so they're down to 3. So it's really hard to say, Matt, whether that's a good or bad sign, to tell you the truth, because maybe they used every last bit out of the 4th rider there, and now these 3 will get their time. Let's see what Swedish Swifters can put up on the board. I'm looking to see 29:20 from Sarah Snowpins as they move into the hot seat. Ooh la la!
It is ooh la la indeed. Sarah Snowpins have set this course alight. And finally, the 3-rider team of Team Swedish Swifters crossed on. And not too far behind, only about 600 meters behind, are Movistar, Vidar Mel, Pim van Diemen, and Jimmy Kershaw. A Norwegian, a Dutchman, and a British rider. 3 riders left for Movistar. This gradual left-hand bend opens out to another straight, then that little right-hander, and the finish line will finally come. They've set some pretty decent times out on course. First split was 4th for Movistar. Second split, they were 5th with a 16:22. What is going to be the final time for the Spanish Esports squad? Mel, Kershaw, and Pim van Diemen. This will be excruciatingly painful. They're reduced to only 3 riders, 200 meters to go for Movistar. Now, Dave, take them across the line.
These are 3 esports monsters that we're looking at finishing up. You'd expect a great time for them. I mean, I don't see how they couldn't have gone under sub 30, but the proof is in the pudding at the finish. This is going to be Restart that we're looking at now. Is Luc Gilbeault out of Quebec here on the front. As this team now 4 riders together, Matt, as we will get familiar with this run into the finish line here, as we'll be bringing all of these teams. This is the drag strip here. Let's see, it looks like now, so 29. Yep, sorry, Matt. 29:46, as you were just about to say, for Movistar. So we get Restart now on the clock.
Yeah, Restart looking good here. Gilbert Jamrosik at the back. Jada just out there, the American. Such a tenacious rider, always aggressive, heading into the last few hundred meters. Restart had a solid day, 8th at Intermediate 1, also 8th at Intermediate 2 with a 16:27. Remember, the fastest team out there so far is still, it is Movistar with a 29:20, should I say. They crossed the line, but a little bit further down the road now is this particular squad on. This is Tudal, Rabeck, Vid, Pio Auto, Knudsen, should I say, just crosses underneath the Flamme Rouge. Another tight formation, but you can also sense not the desperation of the teams here, Dave, but the fact they are starting to fracture, really trying to push that pace, and these little gaps opening up in the last kilometre.
Pio Auto at one time were the kings of the hill in team time trialing, and they have never fallen that far, and they are ready to make a big comeback. You get a feeling with the World Championships now less than a month away. This is a team that's finding their rhythm and finding their form, and this is going to be interesting. Emil Tudal is a breakthrough rider in this league. Ole Hoiven, also a rider to watch, and Michael Knudsen has been on the podium at the World Championships, this former police officer who really has the heart of a lion. So it's going to be Rabeck now lifting the pace here. This is definitely a sub-30 ride today. Is it sub-29.30? Because that's the neighborhood that you've got to be in to be even close to that 29.20 that is the gold standard for Ceres No Pins right now. Matt, 29.20 is the time to beat. Every second matters out here. Pio Auto is now done and dusted. Time from the third rider there. Back with Leonard Tugels and BZR, Matt.
BZR absolutely flying 30.11 for Pio Auto Ceramic Speed, giving them 12th place so far, but the Belgians are breathing down the neck of Pio Auto Ceramic Speed. They'll be rounding the corner, led by the beast that is Leonard Turgels, winner of a round already. He crosses the line, leads his team home. We wait with bated breath to see what the time is. 29.33, so 13 seconds behind Ceres No Pins. Good enough so far for third place. So a great ride today so far by Ceres as we look on our screens at Wahoo Le Col.
I'm excited to see what Wahoo Le Col is going to put together here in France today. Is Wahoo Le Col, Canyon, Calais, and Next are the only teams still on. Of course, that red kite now means you're into the grand finale of this 24.15 kilometer race out here. Jan Steinmann, the German, he's a locomotive up on the front here as he keeps the speed very high. Again, the third rider is the one that really matters at this point, and it looks like Teppo Loria is going to be that rider. Alex Tenselhoff has really just leveled up without any doubt over the last couple of seasons to become a force to be reckoned with here in esports. Wahoo Le Col is looking to have a big moment here in the fourth race of this 6-race season. This is the only team time trial. They've done their work. They've showed up on Thursdays in the WTRL. Let's see if it's going to pay off now for Wahoo Le Col. They are absolutely drilling it, Matt. You got to be pulling for these guys.
Yeah, Tenselhoff on the front. There's Steinmann, the German, just in the slipstream of the American. They've gone through that little split there. They're into the final few hundred meters, and Teppo Loria, the Finnish rider, just moved through to the front. He's got to make sure he doesn't detach Steinmann and Tenselhoff. It's all about keeping things together, keeping it nice and smooth. These riders are going to be in a lot of pain here, but a good blanket finish for the three remaining riders from Wahoo Le Col. But not too far away, only 300 meters behind them, Dave. A little bit down the road is Canyon Esports. Canyon Esports are ripping up the virtual tarmac here in Douce France.
We might see a team go sub 29 minutes. Unbelievable. Canyon has found an absolute rocket ship of a ride out here today, and Lionel Viasen is going to bring them home. I'm going to be really interested to see how close they got to 29 minutes. And then here we go. In it with the Norwegians now. What a battle. Throw it back to you, Matt.
Sorry, Dave. It's 29.39 for Canyon. So it's not the quickest time. That was good enough for just fourth place on the day. So it is still Ceres No Pins that lead. But can this team do something very, very special? Second at intermediate 1, seventh at intermediate number 2. But Calais Esports, powered by Wahoo, are absolutely flying here. What can they find? We do see some teams go for the negative split. But Glednes, Umster Omdal, Fjellheim and Oftendal coming in to the final few stages of this race. It's been a spectacular one. What, Dave, can they do?
Well, one thing is for sure, Ceres No Pins now can go no further out than, I believe, third place. That's an incredible ride for them. So they are punching above their weight. I'm going to be interested to see now. So the Norwegians here, they weren't hot on the heels of a Canyon, so I don't think that they're going to be light years ahead of the fastest time that we've seen Ceres No Pins. They got to be sitting on pins and needles right now as this one is officially done and dusted as the Norwegians are through. So Calais will see their time. And okay, we're already in with Next, Matt. They are throttling it now into the finale. It looks like Next doing what Next does, looking to make it 10 wins in a row in the ZRL, an unprecedented run in the men's side of things. Let's see if they can deliver the goods now. 5 together, Matt. I'll let you bring them home.
They're looking good. Haag, Kesazaro, Bruce, Turek is leading them through here. At the time for Callas was a 29.53, so a solid performance, but it's not going to be the best. What can this squad do? They have dominated so far. They round the final corner. They are 5 strong. They cross the line, blanket finish for the team with a 100% record. And we'll get confirmation. We now wait for confirmation of the time by Next Esports. It is 29.36. It is so. Saris No Pins are the winners of the team time trial here in France, breaking the stranglehold Next have had. Absolutely sensational stuff. Well, what a ride there, Dave, by Saris No Pins, finishing with a 29.20. BZR Sports Solid, in fact, second place with a 29.33. Next, we'll have to settle for third with a 29.36. Canyon Solid, as ever, in fourth with a 29.39. Movistar, good ride by them. Movistar E-Team with a 29.46. Then we have World of Elite Swifters, 29.48. Restart in seventh with a 29.52. 1 second quicker than Callas. Then we have Team Italy with a 30.07. The only team, well, the first team outside of 29 minutes. Then we have Pio Ceramic Speed, Wahoo, Nicole, Aero, Beast Mode powered by Rose, Velocio, Team Swedish Swifters, rounding out our 15 teams. Lots to unpack. Back to you on the sofa, Dan and Hannah.
Thank you very much, Matt. Thank you very much, Dave. They've been beaten. Can you believe it? Next Esports, only third on the day after 9 successive rounds where they won every single time. Taking bonus seconds into account, hasn't made too much difference actually, because Saris No Pins had a 13-second advantage over BZR Sports Solid on the day. 10 seconds taken off that though, and they're down to 3 seconds. Not quite enough for BZR Sports Solid to take the win on the stage. Next Esports, as I said, having to settle for third. They were at 16 seconds. At 19 seconds was Canyon Esports. At 26, in 5th place, it's the Movistar E-Team. World Elite Zwifters in 7th. Restart Racing in 7th. That was the only team that switched around, actually, from the second intermediate. It's pretty much exactly the same, but Callas and Restart swapped places when they got to the line. Team Italy in 9th, Pio Auto Ceramic in 10th. In fact, they did also move themselves up 1 place because Wahoo Lecole had been 10th at the second intermediate time check. Lots to talk about. I guess lots for Next Esports to discuss amongst themselves as well. Welcome back to the studio. Hannah and I have got a lot to pick apart in that race, haven't we? What a ride again by Saris No Pins. They were very good in the team time trial in the last season. They've gone one better this time round. Yeah, terrific to see them. Such a well-drilled squad. They kept things, they stuck to their plan. They didn't go too much all out for the intermediate bonus seconds. But for them, they just had that solid, powerful ride. Yeah, they did. Like you said, they didn't go for the bonus seconds. The teams that did were BZR, Velocio, they picked up 5, Wahoo Lecole, they picked up 3. But ultimately, 3 seconds when you're down in 10th position at the second intermediate check and 11th at the end, not going to make a huge difference at all, is it? Or none? Well, it doesn't in the end, and actually perhaps put them at a detrimental effect because they've used a lot of energy to go for those bonus seconds. It hasn't quite worked out. You still have from that aqueduct, you still have around 11 kilometres to go until you cross the finish line. So it's still a lot of kilometres remaining to get yourselves back together, to continue to get back into formation if you get the rider who's gone for it back in the line. Yeah, that timed segment with the bonus seconds came around about the midway point of the team time trial, didn't it? So like you said, a long way still to go. Interesting to know with BZR Sports Solid how that might have played out had they not gone quite so hard at that intermediate check and the time segment there, because it would have taken a lot out of one of their riders in particular. I think we're going to get some comparisons of the different teams shortly, but a lot put into that. Do you think that had they had more strength collectively over the top and down the other side, it might have made the difference? Perhaps, but I think we'll always be left wondering either way, because this put them up into second on the night in the team overall classification. I think they will be happy with the way they rode. They did take the maximum amount of seconds available. Did it put them at a detrimental effect because they've used a lot of energy?
I think you just never know. And I think until you speak to the riders and see how they were feeling once they crossed the line, did they feel that they were completely gassed and they'd gone into that red zone and they were unable to recover? Perhaps they thought they got to the finish line and they were all completely empty, but in a good way. They weren't left sort of grovelling the way, hanging onto the wheels.
Well, a team that doesn't need to look back and see if they could have done things any differently is the Saris No Pins team, of course. And we've got on the line now Ryan Larson. You've done what many people were starting to think was impossible. You've beaten Next Esports, you won the team time trial. Huge congratulations. Talk us through the plan for the day and how it was executed.
Thank you so much. So yeah, the plan was to basically all 5 guys, we all have guys that can hit above 5.5 watts per kilogram for around 30 minutes. So our main goal was just to do that. And I know my job was at the KOM to attempt to go for it, but I was the only one that was going to try to go for it. We didn't want to, destroy everyone else's legs. So I went for, I think I got 4th on the day, but yeah, I was still able to, stick back in the group with all the guys. And yeah, David Talbot was ridiculous out there. Eric Levinson, Tyler West, and John Jant all just destroyed. They were just trains. And yeah, we finally got next. We didn't think for a while there, we didn't know if it was possible. I mean, we knew it was possible. We just had to have, a little bit of luck on our side and everyone have some good legs, and we did today.
I don't think much of that came down to luck, if I'm perfectly honest with you, Ryan. How deep did you go on that time segment up the KOM there to get those bonus seconds? And how much in the back of your head were you thinking, I've got to save something for the rest of this race?
So I would say I went about 80% on that. I wanted to use the guy's speed, so I kind of backed off a little bit and then kind of accelerated through. I knew it probably wouldn't matter too much if I, kind of started a little further back and didn't use as much energy. Probably would have been the same amount if I went all in, time-wise. So I still wanted to. We were pretty fast, and we were, I think, the first fastest time segment through the first one. So I knew that even if we didn't get it, we'd probably still roll through in first place. So that kind of stuck in the back of my mind. I didn't want to go all in, but I also didn't want to waste the effort and, blow my legs for nothing.
You were quickest at the first and the second time check, and obviously at the finish line as well. In terms of the rest of the series, obviously you're 2 points closer now to the top of the leaderboard. On the final one, we've got those double points on offer. So there's a lot still to play for. What are the team's ambitions for the end of this series?
So the next 2 events are, they're structured really well for our team. The first 3 races were more of sprinters courses, and that's just not our team. We're FTP machines. So I think these next 2 races with some hills in it, it's gonna change up the leaderboard a little bit, and we're gunning to finish on the top in the next 2 races, and hopefully, if we're lucky, maybe get to that podium spot in the end.
So what you're saying is it's definitely not over just yet?
It is not over till it's over.
Great to hear. Fighting spirit, Ryan. I like it. Congratulations again. Hopefully we'll speak to you again soon. FTP Monsters.
Thanks so much.
Described there by Ryan of the winning team for the team time trial today, Saris No Pins. And given what we saw today, that is a correct description, isn't it, Hannah?
It certainly is. It's if any race in this season was built for them, well, the team time trial was it.
Yeah, and it will suit them, like Ryan just said there, over the remaining 2 rounds, particularly that last one, because it finishes up a fairly long climb with a decent gradient as well. So if you've got lots of your riders up there towards the finish of that one, you're going to pick up an enormous amount of points.
You certainly will, and as he said, it's not over till it's over, and I think tonight will have given them that little confidence booster that they need going into the final 2 rounds, and especially for in 2 weeks' time, if they know what they're capable of coming into tonight's team time trial and they know exactly their attributes and strengths as riders, I think they'll know that, you know, secretly in the minds now, they'll know that they can try and take another victory.
Confidence is key.
I think so.
That's for sure. All right, let's take a look at how today's round 4 has affected the overall standings. It is, of course, Next Esports still at the top of the table. They've got a 10-point advantage now over Canyon Esports in 2nd place. BZR Sports Solid Lecole in 3rd on 67. Callas in 4th on 66 points, so 12 adrift. Those 3 teams very close. Sarah's were still quite a bit to make up, of course. They're on 58 points, so a full 20 behind the series leaders, and it's Wahoo Lecole, Movistar E-Team, Restart Racing, PO Auto Ceramic and the World Elite Zwifters, powered by Oral 7, rounding out the top 10. They are on 49 points. We're talking of confidence, Hannah. How much will today have knocked the confidence of Next Esports? Not used to losing at this point, are they?
Well, they're not, and you know they've been dealing with that pressure of winning so consistently, and they've dealt with that very, very well. I think, you know, perhaps go back to the drawing board, just sort of refocus, reset ahead of the next 2 rounds, and try not to get too disheartened. I think, you know, they've tried their best. They had a good run out, 3rd place. I think it's just because we're not quite used to seeing them not taking victories, but still ever so consistent, and they still have such a buffer. And
10 points, yeah, like you said, it is a decent buffer they've got with 2 rounds remaining. Do you think they missed James Barnes tonight?
I think they probably do, but I mean,
it's nice to be missed, though, isn't it?
It is, and I think, as you mentioned before, you know, you've got the other riders within the team, within the roster. They all want to race as well, and they're all giving it their best, as we've heard from them in interviews before. They're all friends, they're all supportive of each other. I think that's the most important thing, that they come out of this, and they're not too disheartened. They should also be proud of the way they rode tonight. As I said, 3rd place.
Yeah, it's not bad,
nothing
is it?
To be ashamed of
it's
at all.
Only 16 seconds off the win. Only 19 seconds off the win, the Canyon Esports team. You spoke to Reece Howe. We saw that interview earlier on. Do you think they'll be pleased with that?
I think they should be. I think, you know, they'll, seeing how the season's gone this far, I think they will be quite happy with the way it went. And I say 19 seconds off the victory. It's not too shabby.
No, it's not. Callas in 7th place. Do you think they'll be a little bit disappointed with their performance tonight?
Yeah, I think, you know, we probably expected a little bit more of Kalash tonight, the full Norwegian squad. Perhaps holding hopes high because of where they were in the overall positioning, hoping that they would take something in the team time trial. But I do think they will be a little bit disappointed, sort of losing that little bit of ground that they were beginning to gain on Next Esports and holding that consistency. But again, you know, double points on the final round. Still next week to go in Temple and Towers.
Still 2 rounds to go, that is correct. We're talking of Team Callas. We're going to see them shortly and how they approached that King of the Mountains and the bonus seconds. In stark contrast to Wahoo Lecole, who we're going to see first. They, Hannah, looked like they did a full sprint lead out to launch their rider, Alex Teneltoff, should I say, towards the line. And they picked up 3 seconds courtesy of that effort.
Again, another very different type of tactic. They had Steinman, the German rider, who was leading out Lorio, who was then leading out Teneltoff, the American, who did go on to take some bonus seconds. And I think the interesting part was seeing the team's different tactics across the board. In stark contrast, here we have Kalash, the full Norwegians, not really going for the bonus sprints, keeping it all together, making sure they don't drop any of their riders. And perhaps, you know, this is where they could have gained some seconds, maybe changed their tactics up a little bit. But in stark contrast to Wahoo Lecole and BZR Sports Solid, very, very different. Yeah,
they decided just to keep it steady, keep everybody together for as long as they possibly could. Ryan, that we just spoke to from Sarah's No Pin, said he got 4th when he was going at 80%. Is he just showing off?
Well, it certainly is, I think, and taking the victory overall. I mean, mighty Watts in that team.
It was, yeah. Going back to Wahoo Lecole's tactic, I mean, I don't want to criticise them too much, but I can't help but think that a full lead out, putting a lot of your riders into the red, is not the best way to go about things.
Yeah, it's quite interesting because when you compare it to the women's squad, and they didn't do a full team lead out as if they were doing a sprint for the finish line. Zoe Langham came from the back. She left a few bike lengths gap. She rushed the gap into the draft of her teammates, came round and, you know, was able to have a phenomenal intermediate bonus second segment. But for the men, as you say, it's a lot of energy used and expanded when you need to try and save some for those final sort of 12, 13 kilometres into the finish.
Well, I guess there'll be a lot of learnings from today, won't there? Because they haven't had that bonus segment in a team time trial before. And in the end, as I said, looking down at the bonus seconds taken off the overall times of the teams hasn't made a jot of difference to the end placing. So a lot of effort for nothing. Well, not for nothing, but as I said, it didn't affect the results.
It's certainly kept teams on the toes, though, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Because, you know, Kalash, were they maybe thinking, well, we don't think next Esports are going to go for those bonus seconds, or we need to make sure that we try and keep ourselves within striking distance? Which teams perhaps were sort of playing into the hands of other teams because they were a little bit afraid perhaps to go into the red and make a horrible mistake and sort of lose time as opposed to gain it?
Well, I don't want to put words into Zwift's mouth or manipulate them at all, but maybe next time there'll be 20 seconds bonus, 10 and then 5, because that would make much more of a difference, wouldn't it? If it's 20 seconds taken off your time at the end, you can then leapfrog 2 or 3 teams.
You can, and when you see how closely packed some of the teams were, there wasn't too much in it. You know, a few seconds here, a few seconds there. It could be, you know, might not be the win for a team, but it could be, you know, moving up from 8th position to a podium spot.
About to wrap things up. Any final thoughts from the women's race or from the men's race before we head off for this evening?
I just loved how it was very unpredictable. We didn't know what the teams were going to do, what the riders were going to do, how that was going to affect the riders into the running. I think it kept it exciting and kept everyone, fans included and us, on the sofa on our toes.
It was very exciting indeed. Thanks again, Hannah, for joining us this evening for the ZRL Round 4 of Season 2. Massive congratulations to Wahoo Lacole on the women's side. 4 wins from 4 now. They've only just been promoted to the Premier Division. And also huge congratulations to Sarries No Pins. They've done what we thought was impossible. They've prevented Next Esports from taking the win tonight. Actually, we're going to look ahead to the final 2 rounds before we wrap up for this evening. So next week, we're on the Temples and Towers course, which is on the Makuri Islands. That's a 33-kilometre race with 3 climbs along the route. The last of those is the Temple climb, which is 2.5 k's with a max gradient of 9%, and that is on a gravel road. And then in 2 weeks' time for the 6th and final round, it's a shorter but tougher test on Watopia and the Climber's Gambit. That one's 28 k's long with 670 metres of climb, much of that coming in the final few kilometres towards the finish. Finishes on the epic reverse climb, incidentally, which is 6 k's with an average gradient of 6%. And within that climb, there is a bonus sector like today, where 50, 20 and 10 race points are up for grabs for the fastest 3 riders, as well as 3, 2 and 1 series points that will be added to the team's tally for the day. There are also, as we said before, double series points on offer for that final round, so we could see some dramatic changes right to the last. Right, that is all for this week. Don't forget there are a whole heap of road races available this week on GCN Plus, both live and on demand. And we'll be back again this time next week for round 5 of the ZRL. Goodbye for now, though.